My head hurt so much. When I opened my eyes, I saw my grandfather sitting beside me. I was confused. Was this a dream? Grandfather died many years ago. How could I be seeing him now? Then I remembered. I had died in a cold, dark prison, full of despair. But now I was sitting on a brown leather sofa, with sunlight on the wooden floor, and old Mr. Shen was sitting across from me. My heart froze. I understood. I had been reborn. I was back in the summer of 2005, the day grandfather came to the Shen family to talk about a marriage for me. In my past life, grandfather found out he had liver cancer. He worried about me, so he used the fact that he once saved old Mr. Shen's life to arrange a marriage for me. I thought that marriage would change my fate for the better. Instead, it destroyed me. My half-sister, Soo-hee, fell in love with my fiancé. My selfish stepmother forced me to give him up. My father and brother ignored all the pain I suffered. My father thought I was useless and barely spoke to me. I tried so hard to please everyone just to feel like part of the family. In the end, my stepmother and sister ruined my reputation. My sister took my fiancé, and I was thrown out of the Soo family. A kind person took me in. I studied Chinese medicine and acupuncture, and after many years I became a famous doctor. But just when I had finally succeeded, my brother Su Xian framed me, and I was sent to prison where I died. Now I am alive again, and I will not stay quiet this time. Everyone who hurt me will pay back what they owe. Nian Nian, Nian Nian, grandfather's gentle old voice called to me. Seeing his thin face, I could hardly believe I was really back. So many feelings filled my heart. Grandfather, the person who loved me most, was alive again. The future tragedy had not happened yet. There was still time to stop it. My defenses broke, and I cried like a child against his chest. Grandfather, I missed you so much. He was surprised, but he laughed and patted my back, telling Mr. Shen that he had raised me himself and that I was only 18, still like a child who cries easily. Mr. Shen looked pleased. He said I seemed sweet and simple, much better than the proud rich young ladies, and he wanted me to marry his grandson. Grandfather said happily that he could die in peace if it happened. But I quickly lifted my head and said, Grandfather, Mr. Shen, please, we must not. In my past life, my sister wanted to marry into the Shen family. This time, I would cut off that hope completely. I did not want this marriage, and Soo-hee would never get Shen Qingzhe either. Mr. Shen sent the butler to bring his grandson, so we could meet. This was already different from before. In my last life, the two old men simply decided everything without me seeing Shen Qingzhe at all. But the person who walked in was not Shen Qingzhe. It was his mother, Zhou Yuqiang, one of the powerful leaders of the Shen family. She wore a dark green dress and fine jade, and her sharp eyes looked me over with a coldness that felt almost like disgust. She told Mr. Shen that her son could not come. She said the Shen family would repay grandfather's kindness, but that marriage was a separate matter. The future mistress of the Shen family should be a useful noble lady, not a useless country girl. Mr. Shen was furious and shouted at her. My grandfather, already weak and sick, turned pale at her insults. He knew it was wrong to ask for favors this way, but he only came because his time was short and he was afraid for me. I held his arm tightly and said softly, Grandfather, don't be angry. The Shen family is too high for me. I'm not worthy. Zhou Yuqiang heard this and seemed satisfied that I knew my place. Then she took out a check and pushed it across the table. Mr. Su, the Shen family will repay the debt. Here is 5 million. Please accept it. Grandfather's face turned red. He was a dying man. What use did he have for money? He had only come to beg his old comrade to care for me. He clenched his fist, then slowly let it go. He regretted bringing me here to be shamed. There's no need, he said, truly angry now. The Su family may not be as rich as yours, but we are not short of money either. He had come only to talk, never to force me into their family. If they were unwilling, then so be it. There was no reason to insult us like this. Old Mr. Shen let out a cold snort. Zhou Yuqiang, this Shen family is not yours to rule yet. When she saw he was truly angry, she lowered her voice and forced a flattering smile. She said she was Qingzhe's mother and would obey him in all things, but she could not give in on her son's marriage. In her heart, she would never let the son she raised with such care marry a country girl with no education and no family background. Mr. Shen shook with anger.
Fine, fine.
Then from now on, don't come to this useless old man whenever you need something. Zhou Yuqiong had no words. Old Mr. Shen still held 25% of the company's shares, along with property, jewelry, and paintings. If she angered him too much, he might leave everything to the son he had outside the family. So she quickly smiled again and said today was her fault and that she would go apologize to my grandfather another day. But Mr. Shen saw the calculation in her eyes, and disgust grew in his heart. He knew my grandfather had cancer and only came to him because he worried about me. For my grandfather to be insulted in public like this filled Mr. Shen with shame. He took a deep breath and made a decision in his heart. He must help his old friend take care of me, to repay the life-saving kindness from long ago. So he turned to me with a kind face. Nian Nian, your grandfather and I are brothers who face life and death together. I want you to be my goddaughter. Are you willing? You will have money and shares, just like the other children of the Shen family. My eyes lit up. If I became his granddaughter, I would not have to marry Shen Qingzhe. I would not be targeted by Zhou Yuqiong or schemed against by Su He and her mother. I was very willing. I nodded sweetly and said yes. Mr. Shen laughed happily and told the butler, old Zhang, to bring the family heirloom jade bracelet from the safe in his room. Old Zhang saw his master was in a good mood and hurried off to get it. Zhou Yuqiong could not believe her ears. Her father-in-law was giving the Shen family's treasured heirloom jade bracelet to a country girl? That bracelet should belong to her, the mistress of the house. Anger rose to the top of her head. She straightened her back and said, Father, you are confused. That bracelet is our family treasure. How can you give it to an outsider, Mr. Shen sneered. Is your name Shen or is mine? Nian Nian is my granddaughter now. What problem is there if I give my own things to my own granddaughter? He was doing it on purpose. Zhou Yuqiong's appearance today was clearly planned by her son and husband, sending her to play the villain so the Shen family would not have to repay the debt.
Fine.
He didn't need them. He would repay his own debt himself. Still unconvinced, she argued that his own granddaughter Miao Miao should get the bracelet instead of a stranger. His face turned dark. Did Miao Miao ever save my life? Zhou Yuqiong, you reached too far. What I do is not for you to point at. Just then old Zhang returned with a small sandalwood box and handed it over. Mr. Shen opened it with his thin fingers. In my past life, I had never seen this bracelet. Since Zhou Yuqiong cared about it so much, it had to be precious. On the red lining lay a rare imperial green jade bracelet, a deep rich green with crystal-clear white threads inside, smooth and glowing with a mysterious light. I was instantly drawn to it. Zhou Yuqiong's nails dug into her palms. Her smile was gone, replaced by jealousy and rage. She had been the daughter-in-law for so many years and had never even touched that bracelet, yet now the old man wanted to give it to me. Mr. Shen looked at the bracelet with complex feelings in his eyes. This bracelet is a rare, ice-wrapped jade. It has witnessed the glory of the Shen family. Then he looked up at me. Child, your grandfather has nothing good to offer. I give this bracelet to you. My own grandfather quickly cut in. Old Shen, this is too precious. Nian Nian cannot accept it. Nian Nian is my granddaughter, not an outsider, Mr. Shen said firmly, pushing the box toward me. I swallowed hard. I knew this was the Shen family treasure, and I should not covet what belonged to others. But my eyes would not leave the bracelet. It seemed to have a magic I could not resist. Mr. Shen laughed. Old Su, look how much Nian Nian loves it. This means she and the bracelet are fated. Don't refuse. My grandfather asked me softly if I liked it. I had wanted to refuse, but my mouth seemed to have its own mind. I like it, I said. Grandfather nodded. Since I liked it, he would not object. After Zhou Yuqiong's harsh behavior, a jade bracelet in exchange for saving a life was something his granddaughter could accept. He smiled. Old Shen, Then I will let Nian Nian take it. From now on, she is your granddaughter too, Mr. Shen understood. His old friend was entrusting me to his care before he died. His eyes grew wet, and he nodded, his voice choked. All right. Warmth filled my grandfather's heart. The Shen family was the richest in Z City. If his old friend could care for me for a few years and find me a good marriage later, he could close his eyes in peace. But grandfather could no longer sit long. Pain spread through his back, and sweat appeared on his forehead. He pressed his lower back hard. Old friend, I'm tired. We'll go now, Mr. Shen's heart sank. It seemed my grandfather's illness was getting worse. He offered to arrange specialists and another examination, but grandfather cut him off. No need. He already knew the result, late-stage liver cancer, no point in surgery. He wanted to spend his remaining time with me, not waste it in a hospital. Mr. Shen sighed helplessly. Even with all his money, he could not change the fate of his dying friend. He came over and gently helped grandfather up, asking where he wanted to go so the driver could take us. Grandfather rose slowly and sighed. To see my unworthy child. I have a few words to say to her, Mr. Shen signaled the butler to prepare the car right away. He walked us to the door of the villa and watched as we got into the car and drove off. He could not help but sigh. This might be their last goodbye. Thinking of how his old friend had come to him only to be insulted by Zhou Yuqiong, he ground his teeth in anger. Even now, while he was still healthy, his eldest son and his wife dared to defy him like this. When he was lying sick in bed one day, could he really depend on them? He thought of his younger son who was abroad. He had to contact his second son and bring him home. I sat in the back seat of the car and watched grandfather hunch over, pressing his hand against his right side, his face full of pain. Living again, I already knew he had liver cancer. When he got in the car, he chose the front seat on purpose, so I would not see how much he suffered. He was bearing the pain alone, and I could do nothing. My chest ached all over. A feeling of helplessness washed over me. Was I reborn only to watch the person I loved most leave me again? I could not bear it. I could not accept it. A low, hoarse groan escaped through his clenched teeth. His body went stiff, then sank into the seat as if all his strength had drained away. Sweat soaked through his gray-white shirt. I stared at his graying hair, my eyes blurry with tears. He was in such pain, and I could do nothing. I would rather be the sick one myself than watch him suffer like this. My heart felt crushed, and I could barely breathe. Grandfather raised the divider in the car. He did not want me to see his illness. Alone in the back seat, I lowered my head and cried silently. I did not understand why heaven would let me be reborn, only to make me feel the pain of losing him all over again. If he died, what was the point of my living? I looked down at the jade bracelet in my hand, my mind full of questions. In my past life, on this very day, there was no Zhou Yuqiong, no adoption, and no bracelet. Everything had changed. My heart began to pound. A strange thought grew wildly in my mind. The bracelet, could it hold some secret? I opened the box and put the bracelet on my wrist. I took the brooch off my dress, pricked my finger, and let a drop of blood fall onto the jade. The bracelet suddenly vanished. I only felt a warmth where it had touched my skin, a warmth that seemed to reach into my very soul. Then, all at once, I found myself in a strange place. I looked around in fear. It was warm, damp, brown earth, about 2 acres of land, with white mist drifting at its edges. In the center I saw a spring. I rushed to it and found the water clear, bubbling up, with a few unknown plants growing beside it. I froze completely, my mind blank. A space? A spirit spring? In my past life, I had read many novels where reborn heroines had secret spaces like this. I never imagined such a strange thing would happen to me. Curious, I scooped up the clear water and drank. A warm current flowed through my body, rushing to my arms and legs. I groaned and dropped to one knee, not from pain, but from a powerful energy pouring into me. My whole body filled with strength. My eyesight grew sharper, so clear I could see the very edges of the space. My hearing grew keen too. I could even hear the tiny pop of bubbles in the spring. In just a few breaths, my body felt completely renewed. Joy filled my heart. I had not expected this water to hold such incredible power. Then I thought of grandfather's cancer. Could this spring help his illness? But his body was fragile now and could not handle anything sudden. I needed to watch and wait. I had studied Chinese medicine for so long in my past life. I could buy a set of silver needles, soak them in the spring water, and give him acupuncture every day to see if it eased his condition. I knew I should not stay in the space too long. With a single thought, I returned to the car. I moved my body and felt the energy inside me. Heaven had given me such an amazing treasure when I was reborn. The bracelet seemed to have melted into my body. There was no trace of it on my wrist. One thought sent me into the space, another brought me out. I was shocked. Had the bracelet turned into the space and enter my body? Would it reappear only if I died? I shook my head. There was no way to test such a strange idea. But one thing was certain. This space was bound to me forever, and no one could take it away. In my past life, the two old men had arranged for me to marry Shen. I thought it would be a step toward happiness, but it was the start of a nightmare. This life, I refused the marriage, and instead I gained this incredible treasure. With this space, what did I need a man for? Wasn't it better to shine on my own? In my past life, I was too young, placing all my hope on others, and that caused the tragedy that followed. This time, I would never make such a foolish mistake again. Thinking of my stepmother, my half-sister, and my father and brother who helped them do evil, I clenched my fists. I am no saint. I could not forgive or forget what they did to me. This life, I would make every one of them pay. While I was lost in thought, the car arrived at the gate of a high-end neighborhood. Grandfather got out, and I quickly followed. After thanking the driver, I looked back at the place. This was the home of my birth father, Su Fufeng. I helped grandfather to the guard post. The security guard immediately looked us over. Everyone who came and went here was someone important, dressed in fine clothes, while the two of us looked plain and out of place. If he hadn't just seen us step out of a luxury car, he wouldn't have bothered with us at all. With a look of contempt, he asked, "You're not residents. Did you contact the owner?" Grandfather pulled out his phone with a smile and said he had already called his son, who lived in Building 18, named Su Fufeng. The guard squinted at grandfather's faded shirt with disgust and said visitors not confirmed by an owner could not enter. I glared at him and said coldly, "Are you deaf? We're not visitors. We're going home. Su Fufeng is my father. He's my grandfather's son." The guard stiffened his neck. "I know Professor Su in Building 18. He only has one daughter named Su He. Where did you come from, you wild country girl, pretending to be his daughter?" Grandfather clenched his fist and scolded him angrily for calling me a wild girl, saying I was his eldest granddaughter, Su Fufeng's own daughter, and that a guard had no right to insult people without knowing the truth. But after he spoke, his body shook even harder and cold sweat beaded on his forehead. The guard only raised his chin and said the owner hadn't notified them, so he couldn't let us in. This was a high-end neighborhood, he said, not a place where just any stray animal could enter, safety first. Watching grandfather suffer, my heart broke, and rage shot to the top of my head. The pain I felt for him, and this man's contempt for the weak set me off completely. I shouted, "You keep questioning an old man over and over. People like you bow and scrape to the rich, but make life hard for anyone weaker than you, just to show off your tiny bit of power. It's pathetic." The guard was startled by the sudden force from a young girl. His face turned red. "How can you talk like that? I'm just following procedure." I sneered. "To hell with your procedure. Your procedure is using your dog eyes to sort people into ranks. You keep staring at my grandfather's shirt. Let me tell you, his clothes may be old, but they're 1,000 times cleaner than a snob like you, wearing human skin with a heart full of contempt." My sharp words drew curious looks from other guards and residents. Grandfather held his stomach, watching me with surprise. He felt my personality had changed a lot today. The timid girl who never dared raise her voice was now speaking with such sharpness. He had only a few days left, but seeing his once weak granddaughter show such a fierce side gave him comfort. I had learned to fight back, to protect myself. That was a good thing. The guard, over 40 years old, was scolded pale by an 18-year-old girl. In angry shame, he threatened to call the police, calling me a country girl with no manners. I sneered again. Yes, I'm the daughter Professor Sue raised in the countryside. But I'm still his real daughter. And you? You're just a small security guard. Your job is to serve the residents, not to show off your power to an old man and his granddaughter. Then a woman in her 40s, who had been listening from a distance with a frown, walked straight over to me. She glanced at the badge on the guard's chest. Who told you to interrogate a resident's family like this? Seeing her commanding air, the guard quickly explained he was just verifying visitor information. She cut him off coldly, saying the girl had already told him her father lived here and given the owner's name, yet he still refused to let us in and doubted our identity. Who are you calling a country person? Go back 3 generations, and we all came from villages. You act like you're better than everyone, an older woman nearby agreed, saying the property fees were so high yet they couldn't even respect their elders. Most of the passing residents were older people, and seeing the guard trouble an elderly man, they all spoke up in displeasure. Seeing he had angered the crowd, the guard turned pale. I'm sorry, I was wrong. The woman looked at him coldly. You shouldn't apologize to me. You should apologize to this young girl and this old man. The guard bowed to us and said sorry for his bad attitude. Grandfather snorted and said property staff were supposed to serve residents, yet behaved so rudely. The world was declining. The guard's face was full of shame, and he could not say a word. I glared at him hard. In my past life, I had met many small-minded people like him. Their own lives were not good, but they dared not offend the powerful, so they took out their anger on the weak. That was the ugliness of human nature. I turned away and helped grandfather, my eyes falling on the woman who had helped us. In my past life memory, she was the resident across from my father's home. I had heard Su Fufeng mention that the neighbor across the hall was a vice principal at a high school named Wang Xian. In my past life, I had seen her a few times in the elevator but never greeted her. She was almost a stranger to me. Today she had spoken up for us, and I was very grateful. Auntie, my name is Sun Yan. Thank you for today. She looked at me. She already knew Professor Su's current wife was his second marriage and that his first wife had left a son, but she never knew there was a daughter in the countryside. Seeing this slender, pretty girl before her, a touch of pity rose in her heart. She said softly, I also live in Building 18, so we're neighbors. You can call me Auntie Wang. My eyes brightened, and I pretended to be very surprised. Oh, what a coincidence. She glanced at grandfather and said gently, Let's go. We're heading the same way. I nodded, and helping grandfather, I walked with her toward Building 18. I looked around the neighborhood, taking in the neatly trimmed lawns and the rare, expensive trees on both sides. Memories slowly came back to me. My father, Su Fufeng, was a professor at Zi City University. My stepmother, Bai Mengdai, ran a company. The family was wealthy, and they had bought a home in one of the most high-end neighborhoods in the city, with Building 18 being the finest building of all. In my past life, I could never understand it. I was also my father's daughter, so why was he so good to my brother and so cold to me? If it was because he favored boys over girls, that didn't explain why he spoiled Su He and gave her everything she wanted. In that family, I was the only one who wasn't wanted, the only one who suffered cold looks. There were so many things I couldn't understand in my past life. Living again, I was determined to find out the truth. We took the elevator up to the 16th floor. When the doors opened, Auntie Wang politely said goodbye and invited us to visit her home sometime. I thanked her sweetly, and then grandfather and I walked to the heavy dark brown door. I rang the bell, and it opened quickly. A woman stood inside, her face carefully made up, her hair in an elegant bun, wearing a black fitted dress. This was my stepmother, Bai Mengdai. She put on a warm smile and welcomed us in, pointing to new slippers for us to change into. I helped grandfather change his slippers and put on a pink pair myself. Then I glanced at her and said nothing. I would not bother with this wicked woman. Just then, a girl with a high ponytail looked at us curiously and called out, Grandpa, sister. Grandfather smiled and said how little he had grown into a young lady now. Bai Mengdai laughed lightly, saying Su he was a year younger than me, already 16. Su he rolled her round eyes and asked in a crisp voice, Sister, weren't you farming in the countryside? Why is your skin so pale? I sneered inside. This Su he was just like in my past life, pretending to be sweet and innocent while her words always stabbed right at the heart. Why had I been sent to the countryside? Wasn't it because my father married her mother? My own mother had just died when Su Fufeng eagerly brought Bai Mengdai home and had Su he. They said Su he was only a year younger than me, but who really knew the true age gap? I didn't dare think too far. What if my mother wasn't even dead, yet when my father got together with Bai Mengdai? If so, then the two of them had an affair while he was still married, and Su he was a child born from cheating. A university professor having an affair with his mistress. If it were true, what a shocking scandal that would be. The thought was rather interesting. This woman loved to put on an act in front of others. This life, I would investigate carefully and tear off the false faces of this husband and wife. Little he, don't talk nonsense, said Su Fufeng as he came in from the living room. He wore blue home clothes and gold-rimmed glasses, with a scholarly air about him. I glanced at him and opened my mouth, but no words came out. This man was one of those who caused my death. He did not deserve to be my father. He looked at me too. This daughter had been sent away right after birth, so he had barely seen me and felt nothing for me. When I didn't even call him Dad, he didn't bother to care, he didn't mind at all. But then he saw grandfather's pale, thin face, and his expression changed. He hurried over to help him, asking with concern what was wrong and telling him to sit on the sofa. Grandfather sat down, caught his breath, and waved his hand, saying he was fine, just old age. Just then, a tall young man came down the stairs in sportswear, handsome and clean-cut. This was my older brother, Shen. I stood at the edge of the living room and stared at him coldly. We shared the same father and the same mother, yet he had joined the stepmother and stepsister in bullying me. Remembering my past life, my heart filled with anger. He gave me an indifferent glance, then looked at grandfather and calmly said, Grandpa, before quickly sitting on the sofa. Seeing that no one paid me any attention, a flash of smugness crossed Bai Mengdia's eyes. She placed a cup of tea before grandfather and said, Father, have some tea. I was like an invisible person in this home. No one cared about me, and no one wanted to be near me. But I had already died once. I knew how the Su family had harmed me. Seeing them treat me this way now, I felt nothing at all. Grandfather got some strength back, and seeing me standing alone in the distance, looking lonely, his heart tightened. He quickly waved me over. Nian Nian, come sit beside Grandpa. Bai Mengdai hurried over, took my hand, and with a gentle smile said, Nian Nian, sit down, you must be tired. I've prepared a room for you at the end of the hall, where the sunlight is good. I sneered inside. In front of others she acted so kind, but behind my back she wished me dead. This stepmother wanted to have it both ways. So I said coldly, Annie Bai, I want a room upstairs. I like living up high. She froze. Upstairs were 2 suites, one for Su Shen and one for Su He. Big rooms with good light and an open balcony, the children's own world. This country girl really had her wishes, didn't she? She smiled awkwardly and said there were only 2 rooms upstairs, both taken, with none to spare. Su Shen glanced at me. A wild country girl and so picky. Mom, if there's no room, let her stay in the storage room. I think that suits her better. Su He clung to her mother's arm, looking hurt. Mom, I don't like sister. The moment she arrives, she wants to take my things. Su Fufeng's eyes fell on me, full of disgust. He scolded loudly. Su Nian, Annie Bai is so good to you. What more do you want? Now you want to take your brother's and sister's rooms? How could I have a daughter like you? A mocking smile rose at the corner of my mouth. People say that when you get a stepmother, you get a stepfather too. Ever since my stepmother entered this house, my real father has been dead. His eyes went wide with rage. Unfilial girl, how dare you curse me? I laughed loudly. Dad?
Whose dad are you?
You're Su Shen's good father. Su He's good father. What does that have to do with me, Su Nian? Su Nian, had no parents since I was small. I was the wild child people whispered about. They said my mother was dead, And my father didn't want me. When other children heard I had no parents, they bullied me and ganged up, so no one would play with me. Professor Sue, a great teacher who educates others. How could you have a wild child like me? He gritted his teeth in fury. You wretched girl, I should have given you away back then. To save myself, be quiet. Grandfather cut his son off. He had never imagined his sweet, obedient granddaughter carried so much pain inside. In a heavy voice he said, Fufeng, you are Nian Nian's father. For all these years, you ignored this child and never cared for her. She has resentment toward you, and you should reflect on that. How can you still say such irresponsible things? Although Su Fufeng did not see his father often, he knew his whole career had been built on his father's connections, so he did not dare disobey him. Father, I know I've done wrong, but there is order between elders and the young. No matter what, I am her father. For her to talk back to me like this is rebellious. Grandfather's face darkened, and he glared at his son. Fufeng, take me to the study. I have something to say to you. Su Fufeng was startled. He went over, bent down, and helped the old man up. Only then did he notice how much his father had aged. I watched grandfather's frail back as he left. I thought to myself, he was surely going to tell my awful father about the cancer and ask him to take care of me. I wanted to see how this so-called father would treat his own daughter. Su Nian, I advise you to go back to the countryside. Look at yourself. Are you even worthy of living here? Su Xian's sharp words pulled me back from my thoughts. I looked at my own brother, my eyes full of confusion. Su Xian, I am your real sister. Why do you always target me? Do you have no shame before our dead mother? I even doubt whether you are really my brother. If you truly were, why did you never come to the county town to see me and never care about me? Have you forgotten our mother? She was the one who gave birth to you. Now you call another woman mom. Aren't you afraid she'll come visit you at night? Su Xian froze. He hadn't expected me to be so sharp-tongued, standing up to him directly. A flash of panic crossed his eyes. I frowned. Why would he panic? Could it be that he really wasn't my brother? Bai Mengdai quickly stepped in to smooth things over. Xian Nian Nian is your sister. As the older brother, you should take good care of her. How can you speak to her like that? Seeing how she defended Su Xian made me even more confused. Su Xian and I were both children of the first wife. Why would this wicked stepmother be so good to my brother? That didn't seem to make sense. Was it really just that, living together for so long, she had grown to love him as her own son? That couldn't be right. In my past life, Bai Mengdai was a vicious woman. Why would she protect her stepson at every turn? The more I thought about it, the stranger it felt. I had to stay in this house and uncover the truth. I looked up at her and said softly, Annie Bai, my college entrance exam scores this year weren't good. I want to stay here and study to retake them. Her smile finally cracked. This Su Nian wanted to come to Z City and live with them. Who gave her the courage? Before, when she visited the county town, Su Nian had always been timid and meek, so she had never bothered with her. Now, almost 18, she put on this arrogant attitude. It seemed her timidness before had all been an act. This wretched girl, she had underestimated her. Bai Mengdai coughed and pretended to look troubled. Nian Nian, this matter. I can't agree to it. Everything in this house must go through your father. If he agrees, I have no objection, but the unspoken part was clear. Your father doesn't like you, and he will never agree to let you live here, so give up. I understood her meaning. Neither Su Fufeng nor Bai Mengdai would let me stay. The four of them, Su Fufeng, Bai Mengdai, Su Xian, and Su He, were one family, and I was just an outsider. In my past life, after grandfather died, I moved into this house, and the four of them never once looked at me properly. I did all the housework and lived in a tiny storage room. In their eyes, I was lower than a maid. At least a maid got paid, while I got nothing. Remembering all the evil these four had done to me, I clenched my fists without thinking. This life, none of them would have it easy. If I didn't turn the Su family upside down, I wasn't Su Nian. I sneered. Annie Bai, as the old saying goes, with a stepmother comes a stepfather. For all these years, my father threw me away in the county town for your sake and never cared about me. Tell me, if I went to Z City University and found the school leaders, do you think Professor Su's reputation would collapse? What good teacher? What good father? A man who won't even care for his own daughter. Is he fit to teach others? Oh, and if I found a reporter and wrote about all the suffering I went through, published it in the newspaper, do you think your husband and you would be pointed at and gossiped about? Her eyes narrowed, and a flash of viciousness crossed them. This little wretch dared to provoke her. She was courting death. He, seeing me dare to threaten her mother, grew more annoyed with her country sister. She snorted. Mom, I don't like her. Don't let her live in this house. Send her away. Bai Mengdai patted her daughter's back gently and soothed her. Shen glared at me with open disgust. Wretched girl. Even though Dad didn't raise you, he gave the living expenses to Grandpa. What more do you want? You're repaying kindness with hatred. I raised an eyebrow and sneered. Shen, your mom's son too. Why didn't you come back to the county town with me? Why do you stay here and enjoy a rich life? We're born of the same parents. How are you any better than me? Unless you're not my real brother? Could it be that you're Bai Mingdia's own son? Hearing this, Bai Mingdia's eyelids twitched in fear. She quickly smiled and said, all right. Since Nian wants to live with us, of course I have no objection. There's no need for you siblings to argue over this. My earlier words had been a test of Bai Mengdai. How interesting, she seemed very guilty. My heart tightened. Could Shen really be Bai Mingdia's son? But that didn't make sense. Grandfather was so good to me. If Shen were her son, how could grandfather not know? I thought about it. Once I lived in this house, I would find these people's hair and do a paternity test. This life, I would not live in confusion. Thinking of grandfather's illness, I needed to buy a set of silver needles to treat him. But I had only a few dozen yuan in my pocket, not even enough for a decent set. Even a clever woman can't cook without rice. I had to find a way to get money. I remembered the 2 acres of land in my space. I could buy some seeds, plant them there, and sell what I grew. Then I thought again. I was a daughter of the Su family. These people lived in luxury, so why should I worry about money? On what grounds? I looked at Bai Mengdai and said loudly, Annie Bai, give me 2,000 yuan. I want to buy some clothes and a pair of shoes. Her mouth twitched. She frowned at me. What dress costs 2,000 yuan? I'll give you 500. I shot back. Annie Bai, Shen's sportswear costs 1,000 or 2, doesn't it? And his shoes cost a few hundred. You're so good to my brother. Why are you so stingy when I just want to buy clothes? She trembled with anger, but seeing my temper, she feared that if she turned against me, I might tell the whole world how she mistreated me. She thought about how her husband already disliked me. If he learned I had asked her for 2,000 yuan to buy clothes, he would surely be furious. Just 2,000 yuan to make her husband hate this stepdaughter even more. That was well worth it. Fine, I'll go get the money now. She went to her room, opened the safe, took out 2,000 yuan, and came back. She sat beside me, put the money in my hand, and gently reminded me, Nian, your father and I work hard for our money. You should spend it wisely. I took the money and gave it a cold glance without a word. I knew exactly what she was scheming. I didn't care what Su Fufeng thought of me. I had only one rule. Whoever makes me unhappy, none of them will have it easy. I turned and left the Su family home, stepping into the elevator alone. With a single thought, I sent the 2,000 yuan in my bag into my space. My heart felt heavy. That home held too many painful memories from my past life. If not for revenge, I would never want to see the Su family again. When I stepped out of the elevator and breathed in the fresh air, the gloom in my heart melted away. It felt good to be alive. Living again, I was only 17. There was still time to do so many things. Grandfather had not died yet. I would work hard to cure his illness, and I would also carry forward the Chinese medicine I had studied so hard in my past life. Before I knew it, I reached the gate. When the security guard saw me, he hurried into the little room beside his post to hide. My mouth twitched. People really do bully the weak and fear the strong. From now on, I would be a person with thorns. Whoever bullied me, I would strike right back. I would never let myself be wronged again. Standing at the neighborhood gate, I thought about where to buy silver needles. Then I remembered, In my past life, I knew there was a 100-year-old Chinese medicine hall in the old city that sold silver needles. I quickened my steps to the bus stop and, after 2 bus rides, finally arrived at a street in the old city. As I stepped off the bus and looked around, I remembered this was still 2005. The sidewalks were narrow, and I could still spot old dark green mailboxes, public phones, and icy phone booths. It suddenly struck me that I didn't even have a cell phone yet. I started counting in my head. I had only 2,000 yuan and there was so much I wanted to buy, but the money was so little. I sighed. I would have to think carefully about how to use my space to earn more. I walked into a quiet, out-of-the-way street and stopped before a plain, narrow storefront. Above it were 3 words, Huichun Hall. The corner of my mouth lifted. This was the place. I pushed open the door, and a strong smell of medicine rushed at me. A man in his 40s sat behind the counter. When I looked at him, my heart surged with emotion. This was my master. In my past life, after the Su family ruined my name, I jumped into the cold river. My master, who had lost his wife and child in a car accident and had decided to die himself, saw a pitiful girl jump into the water and could not help but save her. When he learned what I had been through, he took me in. To help me leave the shadows of my past, he brought me to a small town, opened a pharmacy there, and taught me to recognize all kinds of herbs. He took me up the mountains to gather medicine, prepared herbs with me in the back courtyard, and taught me medicine and acupuncture, giving me everything he had learned in his life, without holding anything back. But in my past life, I never knew that this Huichun Hall had originally been his. It seemed that after the tragedy struck his family, he lost heart and sold the shop to someone else. Thinking of this, my eyes grew red and tears swam in them. The man stared at me and, noticing I kept looking at him, asked curiously, "Young lady, are you here to get medicine?" I came back to myself with a start. In this life, my master did not know me at all. I steadied my feelings and said quietly, "I want to buy a set of silver needles." He turned and took out 2 rectangular jujube wood boxes from the glass cabinet behind him. Pointing to the first set, he said it was ordinary stainless steel, the kind many medicine students bought, 100 yuan a set. Then he opened the second box, lined with red velvet, and said this was a true silver set, old craftsmanship, 90% silver, with even needles that wouldn't harm the meridians, 180 yuan a set. Without hesitation, I chose the second set. He glanced at me, carefully took out a few main needles, wiped them with a special cloth, and bent one to show its springiness. Then he quietly asked, "Young lady, is there someone at home who knows this craft?" I paused, then smiled and said, "My grandfather is an old Chinese doctor. I've studied acupuncture." This was half true. In my past life, I had indeed studied Chinese medicine for over 10 years. Since I said so, he did not ask further. He carefully placed the needles in the box, wrapped 2 small bottles of alcohol and some cotton balls, and put everything into a brown paper bag stamped with Huichun Hall. I took the bag and wanted to speak to him, but I thought again, in this life, my master did not know me. If I rushed up to talk to him, he would surely think I was crazy. The tragedy of his family would not happen for a few more years. Later, when there was a chance, I would slowly grow close to him and try my best to help him change the fate of his wife and child. I paused as I was about to leave. I remembered that in my past life, my master had some ginseng seeds. He said an old ginseng trader had left them for his family years ago. The 2 of us had once planted them in the courtyard, but those seeds had very strict demands for soil acidity, temperature, humidity, and light, and we never succeeded. Now I had a piece of fertile land in my space. If I grew ginseng there, the chance of success should be high. With ginseng, plus the spirit spring and acupuncture, grandfather's body would surely heal slowly. I gathered my courage. "Master, may I ask, do you have any ginseng seeds here?" His hand paused. He looked up at me, his eyes full of doubt, and looked me over, feeling this girl was different from others. Thinking how hard ginseng was to grow, he frowned slightly. "Young lady, what do you want ginseng seeds for?" I clutched the paper bag tightly and said softly, "My grandfather is sick. I want to grow ginseng to treat him." He sighed. "Young lady, it's good that you're filial, but growing ginseng, Ordinary people simply don't have the skill. Getting the seeds to sprout and raising the seedlings is a complicated process. Even if you raise the seedlings, you have to transplant them deep into the mountains. Has your family contracted a mountain? And growing ginseng takes at least 4 or 5 years. Can your grandfather wait that long? I thought about it. My space had a spirit spring, so the chance of the ginseng surviving should be high, and I had 2 acres of land. None of this was a problem. Meeting his gaze, I said firmly, "Master, I know growing ginseng is hard and slow. I just want to try. What if it works? I don't want to be left with regrets." The man was moved by the stubborn girl before him. He sighed, turned, and fumbled beneath the counter for a while, then took out a small, old brown paper packet and placed it on the cabinet. These were left by an old ginseng trader from the Northeast. They're genuine wild ginseng seeds. I can't promise they'll sprout, and they're very picky about the environment. Whether you can grow them depends on your own ability. I stared at the paper packet, my heart pounding like a drum. This was something my master had treasured for years, and he was just handing it over like this? I gently rubbed the paper and gathered my courage to ask, "Master, how much is it?" He waved his hand.
No chari.
"These ginseng seeds are just a keepsake sitting here with me. Since you want to grow them, take them. Remember, ginseng must be planted in a cool, airy, moist place. Whether you succeed depends on its fortune and your sincerity." I was stunned. My master was as kind as ever, so easily giving such a precious thing to me, a stranger. If I grew the ginseng, I would share half with him. I thought for a moment and asked softly, "Master, do you have a name card? In case I run into problems while growing the ginseng, I'd like to ask you for advice." "Would that be all right?" He picked up a pen and paper, wrote a phone number, and handed it to me. "My name is Chen Chongqing, the owner of Huichun Hall. This is my number." Holding the slip of paper, my face full of gratitude, I said, "Master Chen, I'll work hard to grow the ginseng. If I succeed, I'll give you half." He chuckled softly. He thought the girl before him was only talking in her sleep. Ginseng was delicate, not something just anyone could grow. He had given me the seeds only because he was moved by my filial heart. After saying goodbye to Master Chen, I turned and left Huichun Hall. I asked around on the street for a place that sold seeds and came to an old building. Inside, the smell of grain mixed with the smell of pesticide. A middle-aged woman looked up at me. "Young lady, what do you want?" "I've got tomato, chili, and cucumber seeds." I scanned the shelves. "Granny, do you have fruit seeds?" She took out a few dusty bags from under the counter. Apple, pear, hawthorn, and wild peach, all old varieties that grew small fruit. Then she pulled out more bags, pointing them out. New red jade watermelon seeds, 100 grams a bag, 15 yuan. New strawberry seeds, 50 per bag, 10 yuan. And red flesh. Navel orange seeds, 30 per bag, 15 yuan. I thought about it and asked for 10 bags of watermelon seeds, 10 bags of strawberry seeds, and 1 bag of orange seeds. I lowered my head, pretending to get money from my bag, and with a single thought, 230 yuan appeared inside it. I handed the money to her. After counting it, she put it in the drawer and began bagging the seeds, smiling warmly. "Young lady, if you want fruit tree saplings, go check the flower market up ahead. They sell fruit trees there." My eyes lit up. That was right. I could go to the flower market. Asked her exactly where it was, said goodbye, and headed there. Near the market, I secretly slipped everything in my hands into my space, then straightened up and walked in. Warm air rushed at me, carrying the smell of soil and fertilizer and the scent of all kinds of flowers. I looked around curiously and finally, in a corner of the market, spotted a farm tricycle with many soil-wrapped saplings on it and on the ground. I studied the fruit trees and asked, "Grandpa, do you have apple saplings? And pear saplings?" The old man looked at me and helped me pick 5 apple trees and 5 pear trees. Then he carefully explained, "These trees are full of life. Find a sunny spot at home, water them often, and next year they'll flower and bear fruit." "Grandpa, how much for these saplings?" He chuckled. "Young lady, I'll give you a fair price. Apples 6 yuan each, pear 5 yuan each, 55 yuan total." Seeing tools beside his cart, I asked about the spade and the hoe.
Spade is 18, Who is 12?
With the trees, 85 yuan total. With a thought, I took out a 100 yuan note and handed it over. The old man wiped the dirt from his hands, took the money, and carefully rubbed the edge of the bill between his thumb and finger, feeling its thickness and texture, then held it up to the light. He grinned at me, tucked it into the money pouch at his waist, and gave me 15 yuan back. Young lady, you can't carry all these trees alone. I'll find you a tricycle to take them home. I waved my hand. Grandpa, just help me carry the saplings to the parking lot behind. My family will come pick me up later. He nodded, said a word to the nearby vendors, tied up the 10 saplings, and put them on a cart. Carrying the hoe and spade, I followed him to the parking lot, where he unloaded the trees. Feeling a little embarrassed, I took out 5 yuan as a tip for his help. He happily accepted it and left in a cheerful mood. I looked around, and when no one was watching, I slipped everything into my space. Seeing a few wooden sticks in the parking lot, I took those too. Only then did I breathe a sigh of relief. I looked up at the sky, without a phone. I had no idea what time it was, and decided to check a nearby phone shop. Walking along, I added it up. The silver needles cost 180, the seeds 230, the fruit trees and tools 90, 500 yuan in all. I still had 1,500. I wondered if it was enough for a phone. After walking a long while, I finally found a phone shop and went in. A friendly young saleswoman greeted me. My eyes swept the counter. The Motorola V3, the ultra-thin model, cost 3,280 yuan. Thinking of my poor little budget, I couldn't possibly afford it. I frowned and looked at the others. I checked Samsung and Sony phones too, but the cheapest was 2,580, 1,000 short, completely out of reach. The saleswoman, seeing how young I was, guessed I might be short on budget and showed me some domestic phones. They were cheaper, but I really didn't like any of the styles. I felt embarrassed for making the saleswoman work so hard with no sale. My face grew hot, and I turned and left the phone shop. As I walked out, I noticed the sky had already grown dark. I looked up and saw a women's clothing store nearby. I pushed open the door. Liang Jingru's Courage was playing on the speakers. The owner was a plump woman in her 30s who came over warmly the moment I entered. Young lady, buying for yourself or for someone else? Sister, for myself. She looked me over and began introducing her stock, all this year's popular Korean-style dresses. She handed me 2 dresses, but I didn't like the style. I chose a pink blouse and a pair of blue jeans instead. I was still a student and didn't want to wear anything too revealing. I went into the fitting room, put on the pink blouse and blue jeans, and came out to look in the mirror. The person there had pale skin and a fresh, pretty face, hair in a high ponytail, clearly a high school student. The owner smiled. Young lady, you have great taste. The corner of my mouth lifted. I had lived 2 lifetimes now, so of course I knew how to dress myself. This was a youthful, beautiful age. No makeup needed, no fancy dressing. Just the air of youth all over me. To wear revealing clothes and pile on powder would only lose the beauty of this age. Boss, how much for the clothes? Her eyes rolled. Pants 180, blouse 150, 330 total. My mouth twitched. This store was in a poor spot, and the clothes weren't brand goods. The wholesale price was only a few dozen yuan. This owner was overcharging.
200 yuan, I said. She froze.
Young lady, it's 330, and you want to cut 130 in one breath. She was surprised but not angry, so I knew the price was one she could accept. I said nothing, walked into the fitting room, changed back into my own clothes, handed her the blouse and jeans without a word, and started for the door. She quickly tried to stop me. Young lady, add a little more. At 200, I'm really losing money. I turned, frowning. Pretty sister, I'm still a student and really don't have that much money. If you sell it cheap, I'll bring all my classmates here and introduce more customers to you. She laughed. She liked being called pretty, and this girl was good-looking with a sweet mouth. She waved her hand grandly. Young lady, fine, I won't make money on this one. Just remember to bring me more customers. I nodded, took out 200 yuan, and she bagged the 2 pieces. We said goodbye, and I left the store. Looking up, I saw the sky was already dark. I touched my stomach, so hungry. I waved down a taxi and headed back to Buyua Manor. I stood at the door and knocked, but no one opened it. I rang the bell, and at last the door opened. Bai Mengdai stood there with a mocking smile at the corner of her mouth, then turned and walked away. I knew that since I had taken 2,000 yuan today, my father, Su Fufeng, would surely be unhappy and would scold me. In my past life, I would never have dared to make him angry. But this life, I wasn't afraid. I wanted to anger Su Fufeng to death. I followed Bai Mengdai inside, calling out loudly, "Annie Bai, I'm hungry." Su Fufeng sat on the sofa, sat down his newspaper, and snapped coldly, "Su Nian, so you remember to come home?" Bai Mengdai, Su Xian, and Su He all sat on the sofa with smug smiles. Carrying my shopping bags, I plopped down on the sofa, crossed my arms, and looked confused. "Professor Su, what did I do wrong to make you so angry?" He adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses, his face full of anger. "You asked your auntie for 2,000 yuan to buy clothes? How dare you? Who do you think you are? 2,000 yuan for one set of clothes? Do you know what 2,000 yuan means? My monthly salary is only 6,000, and you open your mouth and ask for 2,000. Truly an ill-bred country girl who only loves vanity." I clutched the hem of my clothes. Was this really my father, who would shame his own daughter like this? My brother and I had the same mother, so why did Su Fufeng love Su Xian so much and hate me so deeply? I laughed lightly. "I love vanity." I stared at Su Xian and sneered. "Your son Su Xian is still in college, living off you, wearing clothes worth thousands. The phone in his hand is the new Nokia N70, selling for over 6,000. Does he not love vanity? I'm your daughter. I asked your wife for 2,000 yuan, and you're this angry, calling me a country girl who loves vanity. Professor Su, I want to know why. In this family you treat children differently. The child you like lives in luxury. The child you dislike is exiled to the countryside, called wild girl, over and over. Am I even your daughter? Why do you treat me this way?" He glared at me with disgust. "How can you compare yourself to Xian? He studies well, he goes to a top university. How can you compare?" I said, "Professor Su, I don't study well." "Does Su He?" "She's dressed head to toe in brand names. She's only in her second year of high school, and you bought her a 5,000 yuan Samsung phone. Today I just asked for 2,000 to buy a set of clothes. I'm preparing to retake the exam and need study materials too. I'm a girl. What's wrong with having a little pocket money? 3 children in this family, and I'm the one raised in the county town. Am I some stray child you picked up, not worthy to compare with Su Xian and Su He? If you tell me I'm not your child, I'll leave this house at once and never spend another cent of yours." My words choked him. His chest heaved with anger, but his tone softened a little. "I can let the 2,000 go. Your grandfather told me he's old friends with old Mr. Shen. Mr. Shen wanted you to marry his grandson, but because of one word from Madam Shen, you became Mr. Shen's goddaughter instead. Are you a fool? Marrying into the Shen family is a big deal. If we could connect with them, our family would prosper. Tomorrow you go to the Shen family with your Annie and make this marriage happen." I sneered inside. This life, the Su family was still scheming to marry into the Shen family. In my past life, they used me as a stepping stone. After connecting with the Shen family, they had Su He seduce Shen Qingzhe, then ruined my reputation and took the marriage for her. This life, I would not be fooled, sacrificing myself to benefit others. If Su Fufeng was so capable, let Su He go find Shen Qingzhe herself and see whether Madame Shen would let her marry in. I shook my head, my eyes firm. I won't go. That Madame Shen looks down on our family entirely. She insulted grandfather, said he was begging for favors, and grandfather was furious. Su Fufeng clenched his fists. The old man had told him about the cancer, that he didn't have long to live, and his heart was full of grief. But then the old man had also said he had once saved old Mr. Shen's life. This heavy piece of news exploded in Su Fufeng's mind. His own father was the man who saved the life of the richest man in Z City. With such a huge debt of gratitude, his father had never told him. If only he could have connected with the Shen family sooner, the Su family would have soared long ago. Learning that I had traded that life-saving kindness for the mere title of goddaughter made him even angrier. He thought Madame Shen looked down on me because I couldn't hold my own in such company. If she met Su He, she would surely agree to the marriage. He was a professor at Z City University, his wife ran a company, and their daughter Su He was pretty, lively, played piano, painted, talented in many ways, far better than a wild girl like me. He shot me a look and said coldly, "Wretched girl, take a mirror and look at yourself. With a face like that, would Madame Shen ever fancy you? If it were your sister Su He, she would surely like her." Su Xian burst out laughing. Exactly. A country girl who doesn't know her place, wanting to compare with little He. She overrates herself. Bai Mengdai glanced at him and said falsely, "Fufeng, Xian, don't speak of Nian Nian that way. She's young and doesn't know her own place yet. After all, people from small county towns haven't seen the world." Su He chirped sweetly. "Mom, I think sister is so pitiful. Facing their insults, I felt nothing at all. Let them say what they liked. I already had my space, that heaven-defying treasure. As for marrying into the Shen family, I didn't want it at all. Better to be strong myself than to pin my future on a man." I laughed lightly. "Dad, since you and Auntie Bai are so capable, just go find Madame Shen yourselves. There's no need to tell me. I'm going to retake my exams in the provincial city. I've never thought about marriage." Su Fufeng and Bai Mengdai exchanged a glance. This wretched girl really wouldn't cooperate. Wasn't she supposed to flatter the family and promise to win the Shen marriage? How could she say she didn't care? He cleared his throat. "Su Nian, be good. Tomorrow go to the Shen family with your auntie and talk to old Mr. Shen about the marriage. Once it's done, I'll arrange your exam retake." I rolled my eyes at him with contempt. "Professor Su, are you deaf? Can't you understand human speech?" I said, "I don't want to go. Don't do harmful things in the name of helping me. Don't treat everyone like fools while thinking you're the only clever one." He slammed the tea table hard. "Su Nian, you unfilial girl. If you won't obey me, forget about retaking your exams and forget about me paying any support." I raised an eyebrow and shrugged. "I don't care.
Give it or not.
If you dare to be so heartless, I'll go to your school, hang a banner, and denounce how you've abused me all these years." I think the gossiping crowd would love to know what kind of man the respectable Professor Su really is. His face twisted in fury. He grabbed the cup from the table and hurled it at my head. But I had drunk the spirit spring water, and my reflexes were sharp. I easily dodged, and the cup smashed onto the floor, shattering to pieces. Just then, Grandfather, clutching his stomach, came into the living room, his thin, bony body hunched over. He glared coldly at his furious son. "Su Fufeng, I warned you not to scheme about the Shen family. Why are you still pressuring Nian Nian?" I quickly stood and went to him, helping him sit on the sofa. Speaking loudly just now had drained too much of his energy. He felt weak all over, and sweat beaded on his forehead. My heart aching, I pulled out a tissue and wiped it away. Su Fufeng adjusted his glasses and sighed, his face full of helplessness. "Dad, I'm thinking of the Su family's future. Once we connect with the Shen family, Xian will have their support when he starts his own business. Dad, Xian is the future of the Su family. Su Nian is only a girl. Sooner or later she'll belong to another family. You can't be this biased." I clenched my fists and stared coldly at my father. "Su Fufeng, you're an animal. Grandfather is suffering so much, and you can't even see it. Your eyes see only fame and fortune. You're a selfish, hypocritical, shameless wretch, a hypocrite through and through." He trembled with rage. "Dad, you see? This is the granddaughter you raised, an ill-bred little beast," I sneered. "Yes, I'm an ill-bred little beast, and you're a shameless old beast. Enough." Grandfather cut off our quarrel. He looked at his son. "I'm old. Nian Nian is your daughter after all. Raising children is your duty as a father. From now on, you must treat her well. Nian Nian is already 17. What have you ever done for her? If you want her respect, then act like a father. You've never said one caring word to her. Why should she obey your every command? She's your daughter. not a servant you bought. You're a university professor, yet your actions are truly disappointing. Su Fufeng opened his mouth, his face full of resentment. He was Sun Yan's father. What could he have done wrong? This Sun Yan was too rebellious, not like Su He, who was pretty and sweet-mouthed, soft and tender, likable at a glance. This Sun Yan couldn't speak nicely and had such a foul temper that he felt annoyed just looking at her. Grandfather turned and looked at me. He wanted to scold me a little, but thinking of all the wrongs I had borne over the years, he couldn't bring himself to.
He sighed.
Nian Nian, I know you've been wronged. Grandpa will make it up to you. Su Fufeng snorted coldly. Dad, this wretched girl is just greedy. You've already let her become old Mr. Shen's goddaughter, treated her so well. What more does she want? Be quiet, Grandfather snapped, glaring at his son. Then he turned to me and said earnestly, Nian Nian, you are a daughter of the Su family. No matter what, the only people you can rely on are your own family. Your father and your brother will be your support in the future. You must be good and obey. Whatever happens, family is always closer than outsiders. I sneered inside. In my past life, Grandfather had taught me the very same thing on his deathbed, to be obedient, to believe the Su family would be my support. And the result? I was killed by the Su family. This life, I would trust no one and rely on no one. A mountain you lean on can collapse. A person you lean on can run away. Only by becoming strong myself would I never be bullied again. I lowered my head and said nothing. Grandfather was the only one who showed me kindness, and now he was gravely ill. I didn't want to anger him further. Grandpa, I understand. Let me help you back to your room to rest. He was uncomfortable all over and couldn't sit still. He nodded and said softly, all right. Seeing that I hadn't agreed to their scheme, Bai Mengdai tugged at her husband's arm, but Su Fufeng shook his head. His father had cancer, and if they made a fuss in the house just to flatter the Shen family, it would only anger the old man. You're just giving up like this? If we could connect with the Shen family, our hearer could, Bai Mengdai whispered. Sure. Su Fufeng raised a finger to silence her. My hearing was very sharp, and I had heard every word. A mocking smile rose at the corner of my mouth. This shameless couple was still scheming about the Shen marriage. This life, I would never let them succeed. These rotten Su family people deserved only hell. I helped Grandfather back to his room, eased him onto the bed, and covered him with a thin summer quilt. Then I took a deep breath and looked at him calmly. Grandpa, I already know you have liver cancer. His eyes went wide with shock. Nian Nian, how do you know? I sat at the edge of the bed, my eyes red, and said in a choked voice, Grandpa, I happen to hear you mention your illness while you were on the phone. He thought about it and decided I must have heard him while he was talking with old Mr.
Shen.
Realizing why I had become so fierce today, he understood I must have been shaken by the shock. His heart ached for me, and he gently comforted me. Child, don't worry. Even if I'm gone, your father will take care of you. I shook my head. Grandpa, don't die. Dad and brother don't like me. In their hearts and eyes, there's only Auntie Bai and her daughter. I'm an outsider in this home. You must keep living. His nose stung and tears fell. He wanted to live too, but a person's fate was never in their own hands. He could already feel that his time was near, that he had only a few days left. He wanted to protect me, but he was powerless. I quietly took out the silver needles and said in a low voice, Grandpa, I taught myself acupuncture. Maybe I can ease your pain. He had never imagined his granddaughter like Chinese medicine and had secretly learned acupuncture. Looking at the warmth in my eyes, he did not refuse my request, nor did he ask any other questions. He only said in a hoarse voice, Our Nian Nian is so thoughtful. Don't be nervous, just go ahead. His eyes were full of trust, and it made my nose sting, tears nearly falling. I took a deep breath and began to prepare. I picked up a cup in the room and secretly poured in some spirit spring water, then soaked the needles in it. With the memories of my past life, my eyes were calm. I gently pressed Grandfather's stomach, where there was some swelling. I took out a needle, dipped it in the spring water, and steadily inserted it into the Chiman point below his right ribs. Grandfather frowned and his body trembled, But instead of the pain he expected, a faint warm current flowed along the needle into his liver, and the burning feeling there eased a great deal. His eyes widened slightly, his face full of shock. Focused entirely on the needles, I did not notice the small change in his expression. I removed the needle and continued inserting needles at the gonshu and other points. Minute by minute, the muscles that had been tight with pain slowly relaxed, and the sweat on his forehead gradually disappeared. He took a deep breath, his eyes full of surprise and joy. The place that had hurt no longer hurt. It had become only a dull fullness. I removed the needles. This time I had only soaked them in spirit spring water, and I didn't know if it would work. I watched grandfather nervously, my eyes full of concern. "Grandpa, how do you feel?" He said nothing at first. He slowly raised his hand and gently pressed his liver area, his eyes on me, full of shock and confusion, wondering when I had learned acupuncture. Then he shook his head and said in a hoarse voice, "It doesn't hurt. It feels much easier." My worried heart finally settled. It seemed the spring water could ease his illness. Grandfather had liver cancer, which made him feel sick, so he would throw up whatever he ate. But now the nausea was gone. He said softly, "Nien Nien, Grandpa is a little hungry." I nodded gently. "Grandpa, I'll cook you some porridge and make some light dishes," he nodded. With less pain and relaxed muscles, drowsiness slowly came over him, and he closed his eyes to sleep. Just then, footsteps sounded outside, followed by loud banging on the door. "Su Nian, get out here," came Su Fufeng's furious voice. Grandfather opened his eyes, but I said softly, "Grandpa, don't worry about it. Rest well." I opened the door. Su Fufeng, having pushed too hard, stumbled forward, his face full of anger. I shut the door behind me, and we went to the living room. He growled in a low voice, "Su Nian, tomorrow go to the Shen family with your auntie. You'd better be obedient. Go to hell, you old fool." "I won't obey." "What can you do about it?" I shot back angrily. He froze in place, never expecting me to curse so directly. He was a scholar after all, and had never hit anyone. His face flushed red, and he trembled with rage. Then Su Xian suddenly rushed down the stairs, raised his palm, and swung at my face. I dodged nimbly. With a thought, a wooden stick appeared in my hand, and I struck hard at Su Xian. A country girl deserves a beating, still daring to curse. "I'll beat you to death," he yelled. Having drunk the spring water, my hearing and reflexes were beyond ordinary, and I easily dodged his attack. His blow hit empty air. In shame and rage, he spun around and lunged again. This time I did not back down. A cold light flashed in my eyes. Gripping the stick and remembering all the wrongs of my past life, I struck hard at his shin. I knew medicine well. The shin bone is where nerves are dense, and once I struck, it had to be vicious. "Ah!" Su Xian's face twisted as he screamed in pain. He clutched his shin and hopped on one foot, tears and snot running down his face. His fierce manner was gone, leaving only a sorry mess. "Dad, my leg is broken," he wailed. Bai Mengdai went pale and rushed to his side, full of concern. Xian, are you all right?" The corner of my mouth lifted. I had only hit him once, and wasn't satisfied yet. What a useless thing. Su Fufeng's eyes turned red with fury. His son's painful cries broke his heart. This was his most beloved son, whom he had never had the heart to strike even once growing up, and now this wretched girl dared to break his precious boy's leg, an open challenge to his authority. Wretched girl, how dare you? Like an enraged lion, forgetting all his professorial dignity, he raised his right hand and lunged at me, determined to use force to subdue me and make me kneel and beg. I sneered. Su Fufeng did nothing but sit around all day. As they say, a scholar is useless. He was no match for me at all. With one hand I held the stick, and with the other I easily caught his wrist. His face filled with shock that the frail-looking Su Nian had such strength. Before he could recover, I shoved hard. With a thud, the well-dressed Professor Su was pushed to the floor by his daughter. He lost his balance and fell flat on his back, the back of his head hitting the ground. He grimaced in pain, his gold-rimmed glasses knocked askew. His face was full of shame and rage. Bai Mengdai covered her mouth. Su He, standing on the stairs, screamed at the sight and quickly hid back in her room. Seeing this, Su Xian knew I was finished. Father would hate me even more. He clutched his shin and whimpered. It hurts so much. Dad, Mom, Su Nian has gone mad. Call the police and arrest her. Bai Mengdai was a little shocked too. She had never imagined this wretched girl could be so wild, with such brute strength that two grown men couldn't beat one woman. She had underestimated me before. She glanced at Su Xian. There were no sticks in the house. Where had this one come from? Something seemed strange about Su Nian. Secretly, she calculated. She must use this chance to get her husband to drive this wretched girl out of the house before she disrupted the family's life. She hurried over to her husband and asked falsely, Fufeng, how are you? Where did you fall? Can you stand? Su Fufeng felt a dull ache spreading through the back of his head. With her support, he stumbled to his feet, his face full of fury. He had never been so humiliated in his life, all because of this wretched girl who had made him lose all face. He straightened his glasses, trying to keep his composure, and said hoarsely, I'm fine. Then he turned to his still whimpering son with eyes full of tenderness. Xian, are you all right? At this, Su Xian immediately wailed louder. Dad, my leg hurts, it must be broken. Bai Mengdai, full of concern, bent down to check. We're all family, Nian. You are too heavy-handed. Husband, let's take him to the hospital. You and our son both get checked. This is no joke. If something happened to you, what would I do? Su Fufeng nodded without a word. As Bai Mengdai helped Su Xian, Su Fufeng did not look at me again. With mixed feelings, his body hunched and his steps unsteady, he followed his wife out the door. Hearing the door close, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. These Su family people were full of scheming. From now on, I dragged them out for a beating every few days to keep them busy, so they'd have no time to babble nonsense. Tomorrow I'd go to Huichun Hall again to buy some herbs and make poison. If the Su family provoked me again, I'd just poison them. It would save such a big scene. With a thought, I put the stick into my space and went to the kitchen. Seeing there was no food at all, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't even angry. I found some millet, quietly added spirit spring water to the pot, and cooked millet porridge, then stir-fried some greens and shredded pork with green peppers. I went into Grandfather's room and called softly, Grandpa, the food is ready. He opened his eyes with some strength now. I helped him sit up, and he put on his slippers, feeling clearly more energetic. We went to the dining room and sat down. Grandpa, try this millet porridge. It's very fragrant. He nodded, picked up the spoon, and took a sip. A clear sweetness spread through his mouth. He could cook too, but his own porridge never tasted as good as his granddaughter's. His eyes filled with surprise and joy, and he lowered his head to eat. A warm strength spread through his whole body. His cold body seemed to fill with life again. He clearly felt better, ate some greens, and had no urge to vomit at all. It felt so good. Before, he wanted to throw up whatever he ate, but today his eating was normal, his stomach didn't hurt, and he had a little strength. He had been unable to sleep for so long, yet just now he had slept so deeply and comfortably. He finished a bowl of porridge and wanted more, but I quickly stopped him. Grandpa, your body has only just gotten a little better. It needs time to adjust. Increase your food slowly. A trace of color returned to his face, and he looked up at me. Did you quarrel with your father again just now? I pouted. Grandpa, you saw it too. Dad, brother, Auntie Bai, and Su-hee all dislike me. I can either endure it or fight back, and I don't want to endure. There's a knife above the word endure. Why should I sacrifice myself to benefit others? Grandfather sighed. He knew the whole family disliked me. Taking me away back then had been a difficult choice. After all, this was the child he had raised with his own hands, and he favored me a little. Thinking of this, he said softly, Su Fufeng is your father after all. Try not to clash with him head-on. I said nothing. I had endured so much today already, but those people kept dancing in front of me, challenging my limits. When they pushed their faces right at me, how could I not strike? It was the Su family who were too shameless, wanting to give nothing yet still control me. Did they really take me for a fool? In my past life, I had longed for even a little family affection. This life, I had no hope for such feelings, and no one could ever use them to control me. Grandpa, let me help you back to your room to rest. Seeing that I didn't want to talk about the Sioux family at all, he nodded helplessly. I helped him back to his room, and once he closed his eyes, I left and went to take a shower. After washing, seeing that the Sioux family still hadn't returned, I went to the kitchen and slipped a few basins and bowls into my space. Then I returned to my room, locked the door, and flashed inside the space. I picked up the hoe and dug into the moist earth. In no time I had dug a hole, planted an apple tree in it, and pressed the soil firm with my foot. I dug 10 holes and, in the same way, planted 5 apple trees and 5 pear trees around the edges of the field. Then I chose a spot to plant the ginseng. I opened the paper packet and looked carefully at the seeds, 19 in all. They looked a little shriveled, shaped like plain rice husks, dark brown in color. I picked one up. It was so light I wondered if it could even sprout. Carefully, I planted all 19 ginseng seeds, then took a basin to the spring and watered them with spirit spring water. With the moist soil and the spring's nourishment, the chance of sprouting should be high. Next, I planted the rest of the field with fruit and watered everything with spring water. By the time I finished, I felt so tired. I went to the spring, scooped a bowl of water, and drank it all in one go. Warm strength flowed through me, and my exhaustion vanished at once. I took a deep breath. It felt so good. Suddenly, I smelled a foul odor, and black, grimy stuff began to seep from my skin. Startled, I flashed out of the space and hurried to the bathroom, scrubbing hard at the black slime. Half an hour later, I finally got clean and was shocked to find my skin had turned white and smooth. The discovery delighted me. Was the black stuff the impurities in my body? Once they were drawn out, my skin would become beautiful? I dressed and went to the mirror. The person there had pale skin and pretty features, a pure little beauty. In my past life, my looks had been good too, but years of suffering had left my skin sallow and my color poor. This life, reborn, and having drunk the spring water several times, my skin glowed white, and I radiated a unique beauty. I was very pleased with myself this life. I went back to my room, locked the door, lay down, and closed my eyes to sleep. I was sleeping soundly when there came a banging on the door. Outside, Su Fufeng yelled at the top of his voice. Su Nian, are you dead? The sun is high, and you still won't get up, you lazy-boned wretched girl. Hearing the rude banging, my eyes snapped open. I threw off the quilt, put on my slippers, hurried to the door, and yanked it open. Su Fufeng raised his hand and pointed at my nose, cursing. Wretched girl, what are you glaring at? You broke Shen's leg. You don't wash a single dish or mop the floor at home, and you sleep till the sun is high. Look at you, how are you anything like a girl? I gripped his wrist tightly, my eyes cold.
Don't point at me.
I hate it most when people point their fingers at me. If there's no one to do the housework, hire a maid. I came to this house to enjoy a good life, not to be your beast of burden. Then I shoved him back hard. He stumbled several steps before steadying himself. He straightened his glasses, his eyes full of anger. Wretched girl, your grandfather said that in the countryside you could wash clothes and cook. Since you can do it, why won't you? I raised an eyebrow. Oh, you want me to work? Then Sue he should do housework too. If she does it, I'll do it. If she doesn't, I won't do housework either. He clenched his fists and snorted. How can you compare to here? Her hands are precious. She has to play piano and paint. You don't study well and have no special talent, so the housework should fall to you. I sneered, my face full of mockery. Sue he's hands really are precious. Those hands cost a fortune to raise. 10 years of piano lessons, 580 yuan a lesson, 2 lessons a week. How much is that over 10 years? And she's painted for 7 or 8 years, hasn't she? A year's paints, the cost of outdoor sketching trips, plus competition fees, over 8 years, that's not a small sum either. The two together, the money spent could probably buy an apartment in the county town. His face darkened. What do you know? That is art, cultivation, temperament. How can it be measured in money? You're impossibly vulgar. I leaned against the doorframe, my eyes full of scorn. Soo-hee studied piano for 10 years. How many pieces can she actually play? If I could play piano, would I get out of housework too? In my past life, Shen played piano very well. To be worthy of him, I had once practiced hard just to make him look at me a little more. Though I hadn't studied as long as Soo-hee, I had far more talent than she did. In my past life, Soo-hee once played, for Elise, at a banquet, such a simple piece, and she still hit 7 wrong notes. Plainly put, Soo-hee had no artistic talent at all. The Soo family had simply thrown money at it. Yet even in the end, she achieved nothing in art. Perhaps these fake young ladies just used the cover of art to package themselves, when really all they wanted was to marry into a wealthy family. Their whole goal in life was only to become rich men's wives. As soon as I finished speaking, Bai Mengdai, who had been eavesdropping at the kitchen door, jumped out with a mocking smile. Nian Nian, you can eat carelessly but you can't speak carelessly. When did you ever study piano? This isn't like cooking, where you just wave your hands around. Little he studied piano for 10 years, practicing in the coldest winter and hottest summer, suffering a lot to gain some foundation. She had wanted to say achievement, but thought better of it. After so many years, her daughter could barely play a few pieces and had no talent at all. Learning piano was just for show. Soo-hee, sitting in the living room, quickly stood and went to the piano, lifting her chin with pride. Soo-nian, I know you feel unfairly treated, but playing piano is sacred. You don't even read sheet music, do you? Do you know where middle C is? Don't make a fool of yourself. She stroked the piano, her eyes full of provocation, all but calling me a country bumpkin. Su Fufeng frowned with disgust. This wretched girl knew nothing, yet dared to boast. Her playing piano would be like fluffing cotton. He waved his hand impatiently. Su Nian, stop being unreasonable. Go wash the dishes, clean upstairs and downstairs, and make lunch while you're at it. He hated troublesome people and wanted the farce to end quickly. Bai Mengdia's eyes rolled. Today she meant to make me look foolish. This wretched girl didn't know her place, daring to compete with her little he at every turn without even checking whether she measured up. Nian Nian, you always like to compare yourself to little he and think you're dad, and I play favorites. Auntie will give you a chance. If you can play one piece, nothing hard, just the simplest twinkle twinkle little star, and play it through, Annie won't make you do chores anymore. And we'll reward you with 5,000 yuan. How about it? It sounded generous, but she knew I had never studied piano and would never get that money. She was deliberately setting me up to look foolish, to stomp on me in front of Su Fufeng and make him see how laughable I was. Soo-hee's round eyes rolled with cunning. Dad, Mom, let sister try. Maybe she's a genius, self-taught. The world isn't without such geniuses. She smiled happily, but inside, she hated me. Ever since I arrived, I had turned the house upside down, broken her brother's leg, and kept comparing myself to her. Today she would make this country bumpkin look foolish and learn her place. Su Fufeng also wanted to teach me a lesson. This daughter had not only broken his son's leg but dared to lay hands on him, utterly lawless. Today he would make me see clearly so I'd quiet down afterward. Everyone's eyes fell on me. Expressionless, I walked straight to the piano, lifted the lid, sat on the bench, straightened my back, raised my hands above the keys, and let my fingertips fall. The moment the first chord sounded, Soo-hee's eyes shrank. What I played was not Twinkle Twinkle Little Star at all, it was Debussy's Clair de Lune. I played slowly, controlling the force and tone of every note just right. The music flowed gently from my fingertips, and the living room fell into dead silence. Bai Mengdia's mouth hung open in shock, her eyes wide, her smile long gone. Soo-hee's face went pale. 10 years of piano told her exactly how difficult Clair de Lune was. Its demands on finger touch, pedal control, and the creation of mood were all very high. Not only had I played it, I had played it beautifully. She frowned, clenched her fists, her eyes full of rage. How was this possible? Hadn't they said Su Nian never studied piano? How could she play better than me? What made her more desperate was that I had no sheet music, while she always needed it or she'd panic. Yet I sat there so calmly, without a moment's hesitation, full of confidence. Those complex harmonies, those ever-changing accidentals. How did I do it? By ear alone? Her eyes filled with shock, anger, and self-doubt. What had she learned in those 10 years? So the clown was herself? Su Fufeng was shocked too, his eyes complex. He hadn't expected this wretched girl to truly have some skill. He had underestimated me. But even with a little talent, he still didn't like me. Bai Mingdia's mouth twitched, her face going from green to white, a prickling pain in her chest. This cursed Su Nian had secretly learned piano behind everyone's back. She had wanted to use my ignorance to lift up her daughter, but it had backfired, giving me the advantage instead. Her daughter's face had been stomped into the ground, and she felt the sting of it. Just then the piece ended. I stood up gracefully, turned, and looked at the three of them. The corner of my mouth lifted. I held out my fair hand. Auntie Bai, you lost. 5,000 yuan. She clutched her apron, her knuckles white, and forced a smile. Nian Nian, since you can play piano, why didn't you say so honestly? You did this on purpose to embarrass me and leave me with no way out. What a scheming child you are. I withdrew my hand, frowning, my face full of displeasure. Auntie Bai, I never said I hadn't studied piano. That was all your assumption. I said I could play, and you didn't believe me. Sister even mocked me for not reading sheet music. She clenched her fists. This sharp-tongued wretched girl had deliberately tricked her out of money. She would remember this grudge, and one day she would ruin Su Nian's hands and see how she'd play piano then.
Fine.
A bet's a bet. I'll find a maid to do the housework. You and little He are both my daughters, and Auntie can't bear to make you work. I'll go get your money now. Su Fufeng quickly grabbed his wife's arm and whispered, Mengdai, you spoil the children too much. 5,000 is not small money. How can you just give it to her? 500 is enough. I clenched my fists, my voice cold. Dad, Auntie Bai, you want to go back on your word? If they dared break their promise today, I'd smash this house apart. Anyone who dared toy with me would pay the price. Just then, Grandfather came out of his room, looking much better. Lying in bed, he had heard the argument. Wanting me to stay in this house, he didn't want to interfere too much. When he heard them make the bet, he had meant to come out and stop it, but I had taken it seriously and something unexpected happened. I could play piano, and play it very well. He was shocked too. When had I learned acupuncture? When had I learned piano? Was this still the Nian Nian he used to know? Coming back to himself, he understood something. The Nian Nian before him was a very capable person, and such a capable person would never endure being bullied. His son disliked me, but now he saw clearly. Of the three children, I was the one with the most promise. He stared at his son. A word once spoken cannot be taken back. Since you promised the child, you should keep your promise, not make trouble. Seeing his father angry, Su Fufeng let go of his wife's arm and waved his hand. Go, get the money. A cold light flashed in Bai Mingdia's eyes. She lowered her head and walked into the bedroom. Standing before the safe, full of anger, she murmured under her breath, Wretched girl, you dare to scheme against me. This isn't over. Bai Mengdai opened the safe and took out 5,000 yuan. Holding it, her heart ached. This was 5,000 yuan. She clutched the money tightly and muttered darkly, Little wretch, you dare to cheat me out of 5,000. Just watch how I deal with you. Then she took a deep breath, forced a smile, and walked out with graceful steps. When she saw me, her face was all gentleness. Nian Nian, take this money. I took it, the corner of my mouth lifting, and raised an eyebrow with a smug look. Auntie Bai, you really are generous. She clenched her fists in anger, nails digging into her flesh, hating me to the core, yet forced to keep a gentle smile. Su He, seeing my smug face and thinking how she had practiced piano for 10 years and was still at a beginner's level, completely broke down inside. She couldn't understand it. Su Nian was just a country girl. On what grounds could she rise above her? She wouldn't accept it. From childhood, she had been the family's little princess, the one everyone doted on. When had she ever suffered such humiliation? The more she thought, the more wronged she felt. Her nose stung, tears fell, and she burst out crying, her voice choked. Su Nian, she's a liar. She did this on purpose today. From now on, I'll never play piano again. As soon as she finished, she turned and ran toward the stairs. Seeing her daughter break down made Bai Mengdai hate me even more. It was all because of this wretched girl that her here was so upset. She was about to chase after Su He to comfort her, but Su Fufeng stopped her. Don't go, she was startled. Her husband rarely lost his temper. Thinking of the foolish things she'd done today and fearing she'd annoy him, she stopped. Su Fufeng's head ached with anger, thinking it was all because Bai Mengdai had been too clever for her own good and let me cheat away 5,000 yuan. He glared at her. Why are you standing there? Go make the food. She glanced at him, and thinking she still had to protect her virtuous reputation in front of others, laughed lightly. Fine, I'll go cook now. Pleased, I returned to my room, closed the door, and laid the 5,000 yuan on the bed. With this money, I could do many things. Remembering what was in my space, I quickly locked the door and flashed inside. The ginseng I had planted had already sprouted. My eyes shrank. This was absurd. Overnight, all 19 ginseng seeds had sprouted. The strawberries and watermelons had all sprouted too. I took a basin and watered the ginseng, watermelon, and strawberry seedlings, then watered the 10 fruit trees again. I drank a bowl of spring water, instantly felt full of strength, and left the space content. I knew that after these 2 days, Bai Mengdai and her daughter hated me to the core. To stop them from harming me in secret, I needed to prepare in advance and make a batch of poison. If anyone dared to hurt me, I would make them pay. Lying on the bed, touching the 5,000 yuan, I sighed. This little bit of money wasn't nearly enough. Buying herbs and daily necessities would use up most of it. With a thought, I put the 5,000 into my space and lay there thinking about how to make money. This life, I had no medical license. Practicing medicine illegally was against the law, and I couldn't bear the consequences. That path wouldn't work for earning money. Then a thought came. Maybe when the fruit in my space ripened, I could set up a stall and sell it? But for now I had no clear plan. Stocks? I didn't know how. I sighed, feeling so useless. Other people who time-traveled could easily earn millions in the blink of an eye, but me? I was just a useless thing who couldn't even afford a phone. I sat up suddenly, got out of bed, and put on the clothes I'd bought yesterday, a white t-shirt and blue jeans. Sitting at the dressing table, I combed my hair into a high ponytail and tied it with an elastic band. Looking in the mirror, I seemed fresh, clean, and full of energy. I opened the door, poked my head out, and looked around. Seeing only Su Fufeng in the living room, I quietly slipped into grandfather's room. He was lying in bed resting with his eyes closed. Sensing someone enter, he opened his eyes at once, and seeing it was me, he smiled lovingly. Nian Nian, you're here. Sit. Grandpa, did the acupuncture yesterday have any effect? It did. The pain eased, and my spirits are much better. Grandpa, then let me do acupuncture for you again, he nodded. He didn't understand where I had learned acupuncture, or how I had learned piano. He was old. If I wanted to tell him, I would, and if not, he wouldn't pry. He lay flat on the bed, his mind a jumble, and slowly closed his eyes. I looked at him, struggling over whether to explain the piano. I had thought that if he asked, I would honestly tell him about being reborn. But seeing that he had no intention of asking, I quietly felt relieved. After all, being reborn was too strange a thing, and I didn't want to tell anyone. With a thought, I took out a bowl filled with spirit spring water and the silver needles. I lifted the cover on his stomach, took out a needle, and began. Time slowly passed, and the old man felt a warm strength wrapping around his body, more and more comfortable. I pulled out the last needle and quietly put the bowl back into my space. Grandpa, how is it? Do you feel a little better? He opened his eyes and reached out to touch his stomach. The pain there was gone. The feeling was amazing. He slowly sat up, his eyes full of surprise and joy. Nian Nian, I feel much better. I grinned. I hadn't expected the spring water to work so well. With acupuncture alone, it would at most delay the pain, not make his whole body feel comfortable. This life, With the jade bracelet space, perhaps the fate of both grandfather and me would change. Just then, Su Fufeng pushed open the door with a gentle smile. "Dad, the food is ready." But the moment his eyes fell on me, his smile froze, and a trace of disgust appeared in his eyes. I caught the small change in his expression, and it made me uncomfortable. This was naked contempt. Was I really Su Fufeng's daughter? Why did he hate me so much? And Su Shen, now in the hospital, also disliked me intensely. Were they truly my family? Across 2 lifetimes, I had too many questions. Then a thought flashed in my mind. That was it, I could do a paternity test. I had to find a way to get some of Su Fufeng's hair, and Su Shen's hair too. I'd test them to see whether I was really Su Fufeng's daughter, and whether I was really Su Shen's sister. "Nian Nian, what are you staring at?" Grandfather's loving voice pulled me back.
I mumbled a vague Su Fufeng snorted.
"A lazy, greedy fool. How could I, Su Fufeng, have a daughter like you?" Grandfather glared at his son. "Be quiet. You're a great professor, yet you shame your own daughter like this. How could I have a son like you?" Seeing his father's cold, sharp eyes, and remembering that the old man was close with old Mr. Shen, Su Fufeng immediately put on a fawning smile. "Dad, I was wrong. Let me help you to dinner." He eagerly helped his father toward the door. My mouth twitched. This Su Fufeng was a snobbish little man, good to whoever had use for him. Now that he knew grandfather was close with Mr. Shen, his fawning attitude was truly sickening. We came to the dining room and sat down. Su Fufeng glared at me and snapped, "Useless thing with no sense. You don't even know to help your auntie by bring the food." I ignored him, my mind full of how to pull a few hairs from his head. Seeing me sit unmoving, his chest heaved with anger. He slapped the table hard. "Wretched girl, didn't you hear me? I order you now, go bring the food." Bai Mengdai set the dishes on the table, glanced at me, pressed down her disgust, and smiled to smooth things over. "Let Nian Nian rest. She's a daughter of the Su family. If I made her work, outsiders would think I, the stepmother, was abusing the child. I can't bear that blame." The moment she spoke, the air at the table turned heavy. Her words targeted me at every turn, saying I was lazy and greedy, that she didn't even dare scold me. Every word dripping with grievance. Hearing this, Su Fufeng grew angrier. "Su Nian, you don't respect your parents, you hit your brother, you lord it over this house. Forget about retaking your exams." Grandfather looked around at everyone. He knew I wanted to retake the exams in the provincial city, which would cost a lot, and that his son was unwilling to spend the money. "I'll pay for Nian Nian's retake. Even in poverty, you must not skimp on education. A child wanting to study is a good thing. As a father, you don't support your child's studies and say such useless things. Who is that performance for?" The corner of my mouth lifted. It felt so good to have grandfather protect me. In my past life, no matter what wrongs I suffered in this home, no one ever felt for me or said a kind word. I received not a shred of love, only endless humiliation. I held grandfather's arm tightly and grinned. "Grandpa, you're so good. With you here, I'm the happiest child in the world." His eyes full of love, he said gently, "You child. Actually, your father loves you too, he just isn't good at showing it." I pursed my lips and said nothing. "Profesor su lo besme?" I had believed such foolish words once in my past life. That was enough. Professor Su loved fame and fortune, never useless people. Su Fufeng and Bai Mengdai exchanged a glance, both grinding their teeth. With the old man backing me and needing his favor, they didn't dare do anything to me. Su Fufeng blinked, signaling Bai Mengdai to hurry, and set out the food. She clenched her fists in anger. She was the boss of a small company, yet at home, she had been reduced to a maid serving this whole family. As she set out the food, she thought of Su Shen still in the hospital. She'd have to bring him food later too. Worn ragged every day with no one to care for her, she wanted to smash all the dishes, but with the old man present, she had to endure. Steadying herself, she finished setting the table, then stood at the stairs and called loudly, "Little He, time to eat." Su He's irritated voice drifted down from the second floor.
"I'm not eating."
"Don't bother me. Bai Mengdai smiled awkwardly at everyone. The child is young and throwing a little tantrum. I'll go call her down. Grandfather smiled without a word, and she hurried upstairs, relieved. After saying something to Soo-hee in her room, the two came down quickly, all the gloom gone from Soo-hee's face. Seeing grandfather, she said sweetly, "Grandpa." He nodded kindly. "Hurry and eat. I already had a plan in mind. Provoke Su Fufeng into hitting me, then seize the chance to pull out his hair, put it in my space, and do the paternity test." My eyes rolled. Poking at the rice with my chopsticks, I glanced at Soo-hee across from me. Her eyes wandered, not daring to meet mine. Su Fufeng ate with his head down, lost in thought. I coughed and said with a smile, "Annie Bai, this tomato and egg is a bit salty. And these greens are so bland. Did you forget the salt?" Her hand paused, fury filling her, that this wretched girl dared to criticize her cooking. Pressing down her anger, she pulled out a fake smile. "Nian Nian, your tongue is too picky. Your father has never complained about me, yet you open your mouth only to put me down." Su Fufeng glared at me and snapped, "Wretched girl. Only you make such a fuss. If you don't want to eat, then get lost." Grandfather said quietly, "These dishes really are rather ordinary." Su Fufeng and Bai Mengdai exchanged a glance. She gripped her chopsticks, forcing down her anger, and managed a small smile. "Then, I'll be more careful with the seasoning next time." I looked at Su Fufeng. "Dad, you really aren't picky. Even a pig wouldn't eat this food, yet you eat it with such relish." "Not picky at all." Then I turned to Soo-hee with mockery in my eyes. "Sister, you studied piano for 10 years. Without sheet music, how many pieces can you play? Even a fart makes a sound, but you've spent so much of the family's money without making a single ripple. What a waste of Dad's hard-earned money." Soo-hee had been eating with her head down, not wanting to provoke me for fear of being mocked. But I showed no mercy, exposing her completely. When had she ever suffered such a grievance? Her nose stung. She put down her chopsticks and burst out wailing. Seeing her precious daughter wronged, Bai Mengdai set down her chopsticks too, gently stroking her back, and turned to me with eyes like they were soaked in poison. "Su Nian, you go too far. Even if you have talent for piano, you can't humiliate your sister like this." I raised an eyebrow and crossed my arms. I'd said only a few cutting words, and Soo-hee couldn't take it? In my past life, Soo-hee had humiliated me for years while the whole family played dead, not one of them standing up for me. Indeed, those who are favored are always fearless. Su Fufeng had been trying hard to control himself, but I kept jumping out to challenge his limits. Seeing Soo-hee wronged, he was finally enraged. Veins bulged on his forehead. He slammed his chopsticks on the table, his eyes full of fury, and pointed hard at me. "Wretched girl, however bad Here is, she's better than you. I see you're just jealous of her. Let me tell you the truth. I love Here and I hate you. You're a curse. You killed your mother the moment you were born. You're a star of disaster. Since you came to this house, there hasn't been one peaceful day. You heartless thing, I should have strangled you back then." "Su Fufeng, shut your mouth." Grandfather cut off his son's vicious words. Su Fufeng trembled, having lost his reason just now. The poisonous words stabbed into my heart like knives. I thought I no longer cared, but it still hurt. Hearing her father's words, Soo-hee instantly found her courage. She stopped sobbing, and her eyes turned smug as she looked at me. She was the daughter father loved most. This Su Nian was nothing. I felt cold all over. I shot to my feet and suddenly raised my voice. "If you hate me so much, why did you give birth to me? Did you ever ask my opinion? Did you ever ask whether I wanted to be your daughter? You're so biased. You don't deserve to be my father. I hate you." I grabbed the tablecloth and yanked it up with all my strength. With a great crash, bowls and plates shattered, soup splashed everywhere, food and broth spattering on the walls and floor. The sudden upheaval made Bai Mengdai and Soo-hee scream in fright. The two of them shrank back and quietly retreated. Su Fufeng had not expected my reaction to be so violent. He froze for a moment. When he came back to himself, reason was instantly swallowed by rage. "You've rebelled. Wretched girl. Today I'll beat you to death." His eyes red, he rounded the messy table, raised his palm, and swung at my face. I sneered and didn't dodge. Instead, I clamped down hard on his wrist and secretly hooked my foot around his ankle. Then I suddenly let go of his wrist. Off balance, he stumbled and lost his footing. Seizing the chaos, I grabbed a clump of his hair, yanked hard, and pulled out a tuft, quickly slipping it into my space. He felt a sharp pain on his scalp, screamed, and fell heavily to the floor, landing right in the spilled food. Touching the sticky mess, looking at the grease all over himself, he howled in disgust. Su Nian, you unfilial girl. Never in his life had he been so humiliated. All because of me. Grandfather was shocked too. I used to be so gentle, but these past 2 days, something had changed. My temper had become fierce, as if I were a different person. He was full of confusion. Was this still his granddaughter? Seeing this, Bai Mengdai rushed over to Su Fufeng. Husband, are you all right? Su-He stood up, and seeing the mess everywhere and her father in such a sorry state, her eyes filled with fear. This Su Nian was simply a madwoman. Bai Mengdai helped Su Fufeng up. He raised his hand and pointed at me. Wretched girl, get out. I don't want to see you. Grandfather quickly spoke up.
Nonsense.
Nian Nian is still a child. How can you drive her away? I looked at him and said softly, Grandpa, I don't want to stay in this house either. I'll go out for some air and come back tonight. He wanted to say more, but I had already turned, stepped over the mess on the floor, walked to the shoe cabinet, took out my sandals, changed into them, and slammed the door shut. Su Fufeng cursed loudly. Wretched girl, if you leave, don't come back. Su-He went to her mother's side and began sobbing softly.
Mommy, I'm scared.
Sister is so terrifying. Will she hit me? Bai Mengdai gently soothed her daughter and said with grievance, Dad, look, Nian Nian has gone too far. She broke Shen's leg and hit Fufeng. Little he is an obedient, good child. If Nian Nian stays, we'll all be afraid. Grandfather glared at her and snorted. Wasn't it you who urged us to throw Nian Nian to me to raise? Would she have become like this otherwise? Don't forget, Nian Nian is a child of the Su family too. Since you married Fufeng, you should accept his child. Her face was full of grievance. Dad, I didn't. Enough, Bai Mengdai. I've lived a long life and seen all kinds of people. I just don't bother exposing your little tricks. Let me tell you all, Nian Nian is the granddaughter of the Su family. As long as this old man lives, no one will drive her out. With that, he snorted and left the dining room, returning to his room. Bai Mengdai clenched her fists, her nails digging deep into her flesh, no longer feeling the pain. This wretched old man was still useful. She couldn't afford to offend him yet. I walked out of the neighborhood under the blazing sun, yet I felt cold all over. I knew my father didn't love me, but when those vicious words struck me, my heart still ached. I had already gotten Su Fufeng's hair, and now I was going to do the paternity test. I wanted to know whether I was really his daughter. In my past life, I had lived in this city for several years and knew that the City First People's Hospital offered paternity testing. I went to the bus stop, took the bus, and arrived at the hospital. Walking into the lobby, the smell of disinfectant rushed at me. I asked the guard at the door, crossed the crowded lobby, and came to a side building at the back. Looking up, I saw the sign reading Forensic Evidence Judicial Appraisal Institute. My heart pounded wildly. With a thought, I took Su Fufeng's hair out of my space, took a deep breath, and pushed open the door. I looked around and saw a woman doctor in the reception room, in a white coat and glasses, about 40 years old. Hearing the sound, she looked up suddenly, her gaze calm. Hello, what service do you need? She said evenly. I took a deep breath and gathered my courage. Doctor, I want to do a paternity test for personal knowledge. She nodded, opened a drawer, took out a form, and said softly, for personal knowledge, the result won't have legal effect. If you agree, please fill out the form. I nodded. I only wanted to know whether I was really Su Fufeng's daughter. Having the result would be enough. I took the form and began filling it out. I wrote my real name, Su Nian, in the name column, but the address and phone number I wrote were all fake. After finishing, I handed it back to the woman doctor. She put on PE gloves, picked up small tweezers, and placed Su Fufeng's hair and mine into 2 different bags, then into numbered bags, sealed them carefully, and wrote the numbers on them. She asked curiously, "Do you need the subjects to give blood on site? That has a higher accuracy." I shook my head, my eyes firm. "No need, doctor." "Hair won't work," she said nothing more. Many people did paternity tests in secret. She had seen plenty and was used to it. She pointed to the fee chart. "For personal use, the cost is 2,500 yuan. Results in 10 working days. You can pick them up or have them mailed." I waved my hand. "I'll pick them up myself." With a thought, 2,500 yuan appeared in my pocket. I fished it out of my jeans, my heart aching faintly. I hadn't expected a paternity test to cost so much. Taking a deep breath, I handed her the money. She took it, nodded with a knowing look, wrote out a receipt, and stamped it. "All right. Come back in 10 working days with this slip to collect the report." Holding the slip, I walked out of the reception room and sighed. I also wanted to do a paternity test with Su Shen, which would be another 2,500. There went the 5,000. It felt so hard. Everything cost money. Not having a phone was so inconvenient. The Samsung phone I'd looked at before cost over 3,000. I had 3,800 left. If I bought the phone, I couldn't do Su Xian's test, and if I did the test, I couldn't buy the phone. One strong thought filled my mind. Get money, lots of money. Amid my tangled thoughts, I reached the bus stop, took the bus, and arrived at Huichun Hall in the old city. I pushed open the door, and a strong smell of medicine rushed at me. Chun Chongqing looked up, paused at the sight of me, then smiled. "Young lady, you're here?" I nodded and took a prescription from my bag, handing it to him. "Master Chin, prepare 6 doses according to this." He took it, studied it carefully, then looked up at me, his eyes complex. "This is a prescription for treating liver cancer?" I nodded. "Master Chin, my grandfather has liver cancer, already late stage. Do you see anything wrong with this prescription?" He sighed. "This prescription is mainly warming and nourishing, with some heat clearing, but in the end it treats the symptoms, not the root. Your grandfather is already at late-stage liver cancer. When the pain becomes unbearable, I'm afraid." I laughed lightly. "These past 2 days I've given him acupuncture, and it can ease his pain." His eyes shrank. Late-stage liver cancer, pain reached into the very bones. Even painkillers could barely suppress it, let alone needles. He clutched the prescription and stared at me, full of doubt. "Young lady, are you saying you used acupuncture to relieve your grandfather's pain?" I hadn't expected a casual remark to spark his curiosity. Honestly, my acupuncture had little effect. It was the spring water that worked, but I couldn't explain that to an outsider. So I steeled myself and nodded awkwardly. A trace of disappointment crossed his eyes. "I'm ashamed to say, I've practiced medicine for over 20 years and have a set of needle techniques passed down from my ancestors, yet I cannot ease cancer patients' pain. May I ask who your teacher was?" I paused, realizing that one lie needs countless lies to cover it. My acupuncture and medical skills were all learned from Qin Chongqing in my past life, but in this life I had only just met him, and I couldn't explain the past life or the spirit spring. My eyes rolled, and inspiration struck. I learned it from my grandfather. His thoughts turned. Over 20 years ago, at a Chinese medicine conference, I went with my father to broaden my horizons. An old doctor demonstrated a set of needle techniques specifically for the severe pain of late-stage cancer. There was a stomach cancer patient curled up in pain, 3 needles in, and he could sit up and speak normally. Lost in memory, he went on, that old gentleman said his surname was Fu, nicknamed Fu One Needle. After the conference, many wanted to study under him, but he refused them all, saying it was the Fu family's secret technique, never to be passed on. Later, I heard he retired and no one knew where he went.
Could it be?
Your teacher is from the Fu family? I paused. My mother was named Fuyu. As for my grandfather's family, I didn't know them. In my past life, I had never met them. After my mother died, the 2 families cut off contact. Every time I asked about my mother's family, Su Fufeng said my mother had died of severe bleeding giving birth to me. The Fu family hated me, this star of disaster, and that hatred extended to the Su family. The 2 families had severed ties from the day my mother died. I had believed I killed my mother and never dared to ask about my grandfather's family or meet the Fu family. Thinking of this, my heart ached faintly. I coughed, embarrassed. I'm not sure either. Seeing I wouldn't say, he hurried to prepare the herbs. After he finished, he looked at me. Young lady, with such fine needle skills, would you be willing to come work here as a doctor? I took the herb packet and shook my head, sighing helplessly. Master Chen, I have no medical license. I can't treat people, he said gravely. Young lady, you have real skill and can help many people. Of those who come to me, 3 in 10 have cancer. They take painkillers until they're numb. They come here not seeking a cure, only to ease the pain a little, to walk the last stretch of life with dignity. Hearing this, my feelings were mixed. In my past life, I too had watched helplessly as illness slowly took grandfather's life. It hurt so much, and I hated that I couldn't share his pain. This life, heaven had given me a space. If I could use the spring water to save those with terminal illness, then perhaps being reborn would have meaning. Still, I felt uneasy. Without a license, if some ill-meaning person reported me, I'd be in real trouble. But then I thought, in my past life, my master saved me and taught me medicine. This life, I shouldn't doubt him. I said softly, Master Chen, I only know acupuncture, nothing else. Seeing me yield, he stepped forward and said solemnly, Young lady, from now on, tell others you're my apprentice. When seeing patients, sit beside me. I'll take the pulse and write the prescriptions, and you'll do the needles. If anything goes wrong, I'll take the responsibility. Warmth filled my heart. My master was a good man, and of course I trusted his character. I nodded and smiled. All right, master. I trust you. My name is Sun Yen. From now on, I'm your apprentice. He laughed heartily. Good, good. I've gotten the better deal, taking on such a fine apprentice. My eyes rolled, and I asked softly, Master, aren't you afraid I'll cause trouble for you? He shook his head. Your eyes are clear. There's no evil in them. My throat tightened. My master was a good man. Yet this good man would in the end lose his wife and child and live out a lonely life. Thinking of this, I silently swore that this life, I would help him turn around his tragic fate. Coming back to myself, I asked in confusion, Master, when do we start? Hearing me call him Master, Chen Chongqing grinned. Apprentice, we start right now. Come with me. I set the herb packet on the counter and followed him to the back courtyard. Looking around, I saw a place for brewing medicine and 2 rooms.
He sighed.
The back courtyard is where we give needle treatments and brew medicine. Put on a white coat. A patient is coming soon, also late-stage liver cancer. In such pain, he hasn't slept for days. He handed me a brand new white coat. Thank you, master, I said softly and put it on. He pointed to a cabinet. All the needle tools are in their full sets. Just take them out when you need them. I nodded. Let's go. The patient should be here, he said. We walked into the medicine hall and saw a man in his 50s curled up in a wheelchair, his skin sallow, his cheeks sunken, his eyes bulging. The woman behind him was his wife, equally haggard. Chen Chongqing went quickly to the man and asked gently, Oldly, how do you feel today? The man slumped in the wheelchair, weak all over. His wife said with a sob, Dr. Chen, my husband hasn't slept all night from the pain. Even pethidine doesn't work. He turned and looked at me. Nian Nian, come take a look. I bent down and said softly, Hello, I'm Dr. Chen's apprentice. I've studied acupuncture for many years. I can give you a few needles, perhaps it will ease your pain. The man had no strength to speak. His eyes were full of despair, and like a puppet, he nodded numbly. I led the couple to the back courtyard, and with difficulty, they helped the man onto the bed. I found a disposable cup and, with a thought, put a cup of spirit spring water into it, then took the needles from the cabinet and soaked them in the water. Taking out one needle, I gently soothed him. Uncle Lee, the needle will feel a little sore and swollen but not painful. Relax your body, and if you feel uncomfortable, tell me anytime. Because of the pain, he closed his eyes, clenched his teeth, and tightened his fists without a word. I inserted the first needle. His body shook violently, and he groaned unconsciously, his wife covering her mouth in distress. Soon, A warm strength slowly entered his body. His eyes shrank, then snapped open. His wife quickly asked, "Oldly, how is it? Are you uncomfortable?" He stared wide-eyed and shook his head. Steadying my wrist, I went on with the second needle, then the third. A warm strength wandered through his body, nourishing his limbs. His tense body slowly relaxed. The pain that had tortured him to the brink of death actually vanished, the liver area turning into only a sore, swollen feeling. He couldn't help saying, "It feels so good. The pain is gone. I'm so sleepy. I want to sleep a while." He slowly closed his eyes and fell asleep, his breathing steady. His wife was stunned. Wasn't this amazing? She dropped to her knees with a thud and said, choking, "Doctor, thank you." I quickly helped her up. "Auntie, please don't. A healer has a parent's heart." I only did a healer's duty. The needles had to stay in for 45 minutes, and the man slept the whole time. His wife sat by the bed, watching him tenderly. After 3 full days, he could finally sleep peacefully. After 45 minutes, I removed the needles, and he slowly opened his eyes. His wife called softly, "Oldly, how do you feel?" A light flashed in his eyes, and feeling a little strength, he said softly, "My whole body feels light, much more comfortable." I laughed lightly. "Good that it helps. Come again tomorrow for more acupuncture. The effect will be even better." Tortured so long by illness, he had finally seen a glimmer of hope. His eyes brightened, and he grinned. "Good, good." I poured half a cup of warm water, added some spirit spring water, and handed it to him. "Drink some warm water." His wife supported him as he sat up. With trembling hands, he took the cup. A clear fragrance reached his nose, and surprised, he lowered his head and took a sip. A warm breath slid down his throat into his body, and all his meridians felt so comfortable. His eyes filled with joyful surprise, and he drank it all in one go. He felt like a withered tree meeting spring. At last he had strength, and the nausea was gone. He felt so hungry. He turned to his wife.
"I'm starving."
"I want to eat your hand-pulled noodles." I gently reminded him, "Don't eat too much at once and make the food soft." His wife, already in tears of joy, wiped them away and smiled. "All right, I'll make you noodles when we get home." She reached out to help him, but he waved his hand. "I feel much better. I want to walk on my own." Seeing him so improved, she wiped her tears and choked out, "All right." Then she quietly pulled me aside. "Little doctor, this isn't my husband's last burst of life before the end, is it?" I burst out laughing. "Auntie, don't think nonsense. Uncle's condition will only get better and better." Her eyes shrank. Ever since her husband fell ill, doctors had only shaken their heads, saying it was terminal and not worth treating. Now, a doctor told them he could still be saved? Coming back to herself, she grinned. "Thank you, little miracle doctor." I waved my hand and said modestly, "I'm no miracle doctor. My skills were all taught by my master." We came to the main hall. Chun Chongqing looked at Old Li, full of amazement. After just one acupuncture session, Old Li could walk normally, as if nothing were wrong. My needle skills were truly remarkable. Old Li sat before him, and Chun Chongqing took his pulse, looked at his tongue coating, then glanced at me, his eyes full of shock. He wrote a prescription to regulate Old Li's condition, prepared a few doses, handed them to his wife, and instructed her on the proper heat for brewing and what foods to avoid. After seeing the couple off, Chun Chongqing came over and handed me an envelope. I paused and didn't take it, saying awkwardly, "Master, I only just came today." His eyes were firm. "Hui Chun Hall has rules. A house call comes with a fee. Today you used acupuncture to ease a patient's suffering. This is what you've earned." I took the envelope and opened it, 300 yuan inside. Joy filled my heart at this unexpected surprise. From now on, I could earn money with my medical skill and the spring water. It wasn't much, but it was enough to support myself. He went on, "From now on, for every patient of yours, the fee is split 7-3, 7 for you, 3 for Huichun Hall. You can use this money to treat your grandfather or for other things." I was deeply moved, my nose stinging, tears swimming in my eyes. My master was too good. I had originally come to buy some herbs to make poison, but instead he took me on as his apprentice and opened a career for me with a steady income. If he saw through my little scheme, it would be so embarrassing. After all, in his eyes I was a good girl with clear eyes, and before him I had to be a sweet, well-behaved girl. He looked at me and asked softly, "Nyen Nyen, do you have a phone? If patients want to find you, how can they reach you?" I frowned. It seemed I had to buy a phone after all. "Master, I'll go buy one soon. Once I have it, I'll contact you." He nodded and asked with concern, "Do you have enough money for a phone?" He felt just like an old father to me. I smiled. "Enough." I picked up the herbs on the counter and asked softly, "Master, how much for the medicine?" "I'll pay you." He waved his hand. "You're my apprentice. Today's medicine is free." I didn't know what to say. He was only a stranger, yet he gave me so much warmth, while Su Fufeng, my own father, always pressed me down, humiliated me, and poured out nothing
but malice.
Thinking about it, I was lucky after all. Though I had no father, I had a master who was like an old father to me. Carrying the herbs, I said goodbye and walked out of Huichun Hall. The sky seemed so clear. With light steps, I went to the phone store and bought a Samsung phone for 3,150 yuan, plus a mobile number and 100 yuan of prepaid credit. In a blink, 3,300 yuan was gone. Walking out, I sighed. Money really doesn't last. I'd left home with over 6,500, and now only 800 remained. I took out the phone and sent my master a text, telling him to call me if anything came up. Remembering I had no change of underwear, I went into a shop and bought a set of underwear and pajamas, another 100 yuan. Remembering I needed to brew grandfather's medicine, I spent another 100 on a good medicine pot. Looking at the remaining 500, my heart ached. This money really didn't last. Outside the store, with a thought, I slipped everything except the light herbs into my space. The sky had grown dark, and my stomach was empty. So hungry. I waved down a taxi and returned to Buyue Manor. Carrying the herbs, I stood at the door and knocked. After a long wait, no one opened it. Then I remembered something, bent down, lifted the doormat, and found a spare key beneath it. After opening the door, with a thought, I slipped the key into my space. I changed into slippers at the shoe cabinet and saw the Su family eating dinner. Su Fufeng looked up, his smile freezing, a trace of disgust flashing in his eyes. Suhi's mouth curved up. She picked up a piece of rib and put it in Su Fufeng's bowl, saying sweetly, "Dad, try the sweet and sour ribs Mom made. They're delicious." He looked at his little daughter with loving eyes and smiled. "All right." Bai Mengdai raised an eyebrow and laughed lightly. "Oh, has Miss Su finally come home? Do you know what time it is?" Su Fufeng frowned and snorted. "Running around all over the place all day. Your grandfather is sick, and you won't stay home to care for him or do any housework. What exactly do you want?" Seeing how much her father hated me, Suhi stared spitefully at the herb packet in my hand with disgust. "Su Nian, what's that you're carrying? It stinks. What a smell." I shook the herbs and stared coldly at her. "These are herbs I went to great trouble to get from an old doctor, prepared especially for Grandpa." "How is that a stink?" "Suhi, Grandpa is sick and you've never once shown concern, yet you complain about the smell of his medicine." "How unfilial." Bai Mengdai quickly tugged her daughter's arm and shook her head, signaling her to stop. If people learned he didn't respect elders, how could her daughter marry into the Shen family? Suhi pursed her lips. She was a little princess. How could she serve anyone? He was just a wretched old man. She didn't care whether he was sick or suffering. My eyes fell on Su Fufeng. "Dad, I went to great trouble to get Grandpa's medicine. He has late-stage liver cancer and suffers so much every day. Can't you see it? You're his own son. What have you ever done for him?" My words choked him. He opened his mouth, not knowing how to retort. His father had cancer. By rights, as the son, he should take him to the hospital. But his father had said it was late stage and not worth treating, so his face flushed red. He didn't want the charge of being unfilial. He snorted. "Your grandfather worked hard to raise you. Caring for him is your duty. Keep the money your Annie Bai gave you to buy his medicine. Now wash your hands and eat." I understood his compromise. He'd pay for the old man's treatment, but he would never do the work of caring for him. He'd give money, and I'd give the effort a temporary truce. I said nothing and went straight to the kitchen, filled a big bowl of rice, and sat down to eat. Without any politeness, I scooped the remaining half of the sweet and sour ribs into my own bowl and ate with relish. A trace of disgust crossed by Mingdia's eyes, and she laughed lightly with a false smile. Nian Nian, your grandfather is already at late-stage liver cancer. The experts all say there's nothing to be done. He specially told us not to waste money. For you to do this. I hated by Mingdia's sly, half-said words most, saying half and leaving half, as if she'd said nothing, yet such vague words most easily caused misunderstanding. I sneered inside. I hadn't meant to bother with her, but since she insisted on pushing forward, I'd be doing her wrong if I didn't hit back. After eating a few ribs and some rice, I crossed my arms and looked at her. Annie Bai, what do you mean by that? Who told you late-stage liver cancer doesn't need treatment? Do you know a late-stage cancer patient can't sleep from the pain? You and my dad are respectable people. Surely you don't lack money? Grandpa doesn't want to trouble you, but can you bear to watch him suffer, to watch him be tortured to death by illness? Auntie Bai wants me to go to the Shen family. May I ask who Mr. Shen is close with? If Mr. Shen knew you ignore my grandfather, how do you think he'd see you? Her face went from green to white. She hadn't expected this wretched girl to talk back to her directly. The old man's illness was a bottomless pit, and she truly didn't want to spend money. After all, spending it wouldn't save his life. It was pure waste. But even though everyone knew this truth, she couldn't say it. Before others, she had to seem virtuous. If anyone learned she mistreated her father-in-law, her dream of marrying her daughter into a wealthy family would shatter. She coughed and said awkwardly, Nian Nian, you're young.
I didn't mean that.
As long as there's a miracle doctor, of course we're willing to spend money. I was only afraid you'd be cheated. Su Fufeng quickly stepped in too.
Exactly.
Your auntie isn't being stingy. As long as it eases your grandfather's pain, we'll spend any amount, even if we have to sell everything. Bai Mengdai nodded quickly and grinned. Yes, yes. Treating an elder is our duty. We're willing to spend whatever it takes. Joy filled my heart. Su Fufeng and Bai Mengdai had money, and the spring water could truly ease grandfather's illness. I could use the chance of treating him to extort some money from these two. After all, part of my father's money was mine too. It would be foolish not to take it. I nodded. That's good. I knew Dad and Auntie Bai were respectable people. How could you be unfilial? By the way, today I got 6 doses of herbs from the miracle doctor, 800 yuan a dose. The 5,000 is all gone. In 6 days I'll need to get more. Remember to give me the money then. Her eyes went wide and her mouth fell open. She stammered. What? 800 yuan a dose? Is that robbery? I blinked. Annie Bai, you can't say that. This doctor's medicine can ease cancer patients' pain and let them live a few more years. 800 a dose. Do you know how many people fight to buy it? She was about to open her mouth when an aged voice came. Nian Nian, 800. A dose. Can it really let me live a few more years? Everyone looked toward the voice and saw grandfather standing at the door, his eyes bright with longing and hope. I stood up and smiled. Grandpa, truly. Taking the miracle doctor's medicine can't promise to fully cure your liver cancer, but it can promise you a few more years. His chest heaved and his voice trembled. A few more years? Wonderful. Seeing her father-in-law had come out, Bai Mengdai quickly said, Nian Nian, as long as the doctor's medicine works, we'll cover all of your grandfather's treatment costs. Grandfather waved his hand. No need. I have money. I can still afford a few 100,000 for treatment. Hearing a few 100,000, Bai Mengdai felt a pang. Years ago, when Fuyu was alive, she had built up a fortune for the Su family. After Fuyu died, Bai Mengdai seized her company, but she had no head for business, ran it poorly, and earned nothing. She was living off the old savings. Hearing the old man mention hundreds of thousands stung her. Though that money was what Fuyu had left, once it came into her hands, it was hers. Hearing how much the old man's treatment would cost, she felt reluctant. Though unwilling inside, Her face still wore a gentle smile. Dad, treating you is what we should do. I nodded and, blinking at grandfather, explained earnestly, Grandpa, if you don't let Annie pay, outsiders will gossip behind her and Dad's backs. People will say they're unfilial, and that would be bad for their reputation. Su Fufeng's mouth twitched. He too begrudged the money, but he didn't want to be criticized. He nodded and soothed the old man. Dad, don't worry about the money. With your son here, just focus on getting better. Grandfather's heart warmed. His son had finally matured and shown some responsibility. He nodded, full of emotion. Good. Seeing you so filial. I can die in peace. My eyes grew red. Grandpa, Nien won't let you die. I'll go brew your medicine now. Go lie down and rest. Grandfather, full of comfort, returned to his room. I took the herbs to the kitchen, secretly took out the newly bought medicine pot from my space, filled it with spirit spring water, and began to brew. Bai Mengdai kept feeling that she had somehow been tricked by this wretched girl, but she couldn't find any proof. She was a little angry and unwilling, yet glancing at her daughter and thinking that if she pleased the old man, her daughter might have a chance to connect with the Shen family. She felt the money was well spent after all. After dinner, Su Fufeng and Bai Mengdai went to their room to talk. Suhi sat alone in the living room watching TV. The kitchen door wasn't fully closed, and a foul smell of medicine drifted out. Suhi frowned with disgust and shouted toward the kitchen. Su Nian, can you shut the kitchen door tight? It's choking me to death. She glared for a while, but I didn't answer or close the door. Her anger shot to the top of her head. In her slippers, she came to the kitchen doorway, pushed the door open, planted her hands on her hips, and stood there full of fury. Su Nian, are you deaf? Didn't you hear me talking to you? Grandpa has cancer. The sooner he's gone, the more peace for everyone. Only you put on this act of being a filial grandchild. It looks so fake. Hurry and dump this junk. It's choking me to death. I slowly turned around and slapped her hard across the face, my eyes cold. Get out. Covering her stinging face, her eyes full of shock, she cried, Su Nian, you wretch. You dare hit me? And tell me to get out? This is my home. I sneered. Who told you to have such a foul mouth? What's wrong with teaching you a lesson? Do you dare repeat to your parents what you just said? If Dad knew you cursed Grandpa, do you think he'd hit you? Her heart jolted. She hated me and wanted to make trouble, but if her father learned she had cursed Grandpa, he'd surely be angry. If this blew up, she'd be in the wrong and gain nothing. Still, she stubbornly lifted her chin and said, You stop sowing discord. Dad loves me most. He'd never bear to hit me. Loves you? I laughed lightly. Of course he loves you when you're obedient. But if you ruin his plans, see whether he still loves you. Her heart sank. Her mother had said Dad wanted to use Grandpa's connections to befriend the Shen family. Though Dad wasn't usually close with Grandpa, he didn't dare defy him. At this, Sui shut her mouth. Her face pale, lips pressed tight, her eyes full of resentment. She clenched her fists, nails digging into her flesh, and silently swore that one day she would crush me beneath her feet and make me pay for today. She snorted and slammed the kitchen door hard, as if to win back a little face with such a childish act. The corner of my mouth lifted. I had left the door open on purpose. I wanted to provoke Su He into saying those words. Grandfather had surely heard them. Sick people are sensitive, and Su He's words had planted a thorn in his heart. From now on, whenever she dared to bully me, Grandfather would surely step out to protect me. I knew it wasn't right to scheme against others like this, but sooner or later I would declare war on all four of them, Su Fufeng, Bai Mengdai, Su Shen, and Su He. I had to make Grandfather see the true faces of the Su family. At that moment, Grandfather was lying in bed. His door wasn't fully closed, leaving a crack, and he had heard the quarrel outside clearly. Su He's vicious words had pierced his ears like cold knives. He lay there, his eyes sunken, staring hard at the ceiling, pain in his gaze. Through this time of illness, the disease had tortured him until he was covered in wounds. Remembering Su He's words, his heart felt heavy. He was old, sick, a burden to the family and to me. Back then, he hadn't been able to stop his son from marrying Bai Mengdai, and I had suffered cold looks and grievances from birth until now. Tears slipped quietly down his cheeks. Just then, the door opened, and I quietly came in carrying the medicine bowl. When I reached him and saw the tear stains on his face, my steps faltered, and the medicine nearly spilled. I cursed myself inside. If I hadn't provoked Soo-hee, grandfather wouldn't have been insulted. I set the bowl on the nightstand, sat at the edge of the bed, took a tissue, and gently wiped his tears. "Grandpa, don't worry. Your illness will surely get better." His lips trembled, and he shook his head. "Nyen Nyen, it's Grandpa who failed you. I didn't take good care of you, and now I'm a burden to you instead." I patiently soothed him, sitting up a little. "Grandpa, before, you took care of me. From now on, let me take care of you. Don't worry. Nyen Nyen has grown up. No one can bully us. Whoever dares, I'll strike right back and knock their teeth out." His nose stung and tears fell again. He nodded. "My Nyen Nyen has suffered." I shook my head firmly. "Not suffering. With Grandpa beside me, every day is sweet." At this, he finally smiled. I picked up the bowl and carefully fed him the medicine spoonful by spoonful. After drinking it, he felt a warm strength inside. Drowsiness came over him, and he closed his eyes to sleep. I stood up with the bowl, turned off the light, slipped out, and closed the door. After a shower, I returned to my room, locked the door, and entered my space. My eyes shrank at the sight before me. In such a short time, the fruit trees had grown flower buds. It seemed they would bear fruit soon. The strawberry and watermelon seedlings had grown a lot too. I scooped a bowl of spring water and drank it, a warm strength nourishing my whole body. With a thought, I returned to my room. Though it was midsummer, I felt no heat at all. I stretched my limbs, closed my eyes, and slept. I was sleeping when I heard my phone vibrate. Half asleep, I felt for it and saw a call from my master, the time 6:45 in the morning. I frowned. My master really didn't know better, calling so early. Didn't he know that lack of sleep affected a child's growth? I sat up helplessly and lowered my voice. "Master, why aren't you sleeping at this early hour? Why are you calling me?" He coughed and apologized. "Nyen Nyen, sorry to disturb your sleep. The old Lee you needled yesterday brought over a fellow patient, also late-stage liver cancer, in pain all night. The hospital's painkiller injections didn't work." Old Lee shared his experience in the patient's group, and this man begged Old Lee to bring him here to try the needles. "Can you come?" I sighed. This was a matter of life and death. No room for being fussy. I said firmly, "All right, I'll take a taxi over right away." He breathed a sigh of relief and said ingratiatingly, "Wonderful. I'll cover the taxi fare and treat you to breakfast." I pursed my lips and laughed. "That's more like it." I quickly dressed, tied my hair into a high ponytail, slung on my bag, and knocked on grandfather's door. After a moment, he opened it, shocked to see me. "Nyen Nyen, what's wrong?" I lowered my voice. "Grandpa, how did you feel after drinking the medicine I brewed yesterday?" He nodded. "Very effective." "I feel much better." I nodded. "Grandpa, someone has liver cancer like you and can't sleep from the pain. I'm going out to needle them. If Dad asks, say I went to the library to read." His expression turned solemn. "Go quickly. I know this pain eats into the bones. This is a good deed. Hurry." Without hesitation, I changed my shoes, waved goodbye, and left. At the gate, I hailed a taxi straight to Huichun Hall, urging the driver to hurry all the way. At 7:30, I finally arrived. I pushed open the door, and Chin Chongqing's eyes lit up. "Nyen Nyen, you're finally here." I nodded and looked around. Old Lee from yesterday was there too, his face still sallow but his spirits clearly better, bending down to comfort the man beside him. I studied the man, about 50, with sallow skin, sitting in a wheelchair, moaning in pain, one cry after another that made one's scalp prickle. Beside him crouched a man of about 30, his eyes red-rimmed, clutching the man's hand and choking out, "Dad, your son is useless. I've let you suffer." A woman stood a little farther off, covering her mouth, tears streaming. Old Lee looked up, his eyes full of joyful surprise. "Little miracle doctor, Please help my friend. His name is Wang, also late-stage liver cancer, in pain for days. Beside him are his son and daughter-in-law. Please help Brother Wang. The son jerked his head up, his eyes bloodshot, and studied me with searching eyes. Dr. Chen, this is your apprentice? The young one who does acupuncture? Chen Chongqing nodded proudly. Yes, this is my apprentice Sun Yan. She needled Old Li yesterday, 3 needles in, and his pain was gone. Old Li chimed in, that's right, Dr. Su needled me. 3 needles, and the pain vanished at once. Yesterday my wife had to push me here in a wheelchair, but today I came out on my own. Old Wang's son still had doubts, but seeing his father moaning in pain, his heart ached, and he broke down, shouting, Dr. Su, I beg you, please needle my father. As long as it stops the pain, we'll pay any amount. I understood if it didn't stop the pain, they wouldn't pay. But I had confidence in my spring water. Come with me to the back courtyard. Lay Uncle Wang flat on the bed. I'll needle him right away. Everyone went through the side door to the back courtyard. The son and daughter-in-law helped old Wang onto the bed. I looked around. All of you, please go out. I wasn't afraid of being watched, but the spring water appeared out of thin air, and if anyone saw, they'd take me for a monster. Chen Chongqing thought I didn't want others watching my secret technique, and quickly explained, if we all stay, it'll put pressure on my apprentice and make her nervous, and her qi will scatter. Acupuncture is about guiding qi. If the qi scatters, the needles stall. The son pursed his lips, doubting my skill because of my youth, but his wife pulled him aside. We can't help anyway. Let's wait outside. So he followed her out, and Chen Chongqing and Old Li went too. I found a cup, and with a thought, filled it with spring water. I soaked the needles in it, and began to needle old Wang. By the first, second, and third needle, he stopped moaning. His body, curled up from pain, slowly relaxed. He felt a warm strength nourishing his whole body. Never since falling had he felt so comfortable. Outside, his son heard the moaning stop. Emotions surged in him, his heart lurched, and a sense of unease struck. He suddenly pushed open the door and walked in. I ignored him and steadied my wrist, continuing. The others came in too out of curiosity, and seeing the scene, they were all stunned. Chen Chongqing's eyes were full of shock. In all his years of practice, he had used countless methods to ease cancer patients' pain with no effect, yet a few needles from me could do it. How high must my skill be? The son asked his father in confusion. Dad, how do you feel? Old Wang let out a long breath. Son, I feel much better. If it stays like this, I might live a few more years. His son's eyes shrank, utterly shocked. He had half doubted when Old Li told him, but now his own father had tested it himself. This young girl really did have some true skill. After finishing, I looked at Uncle Wang and said softly, Uncle, the needles need to stay in for 45 minutes. Get some good sleep. He nodded, a faint smile at his lips, and closed his eyes. Hearing his father's steady breathing, the son was completely convinced. His father was not only free of pain, but could sleep easily. Everything seemed to be moving in a good direction. Could his father's illness really have hope of a cure? I turned to Old Li. Uncle Li, you lie down too. You need acupuncture today as well. He quickly took off his shoes and lay on the next bed. Chen Chongqing coughed and tugged old Wang's son, signaling them all to go out and not disturb me. Only at this moment did a look of reverence finally appear on the son's face as he followed Chen Chongqing out. After needling Old Li, I took disposable cups, poured 2 cups of warm water, and secretly added a little spring water. I knew that if anyone discovered this, it would put me in danger. But seeing how these people suffered, and holding such a heaven-defying treasure myself, I truly couldn't bear it. Using the spring water might fully cure people, but I knew it was too dangerous. I couldn't let myself be targeted. I could use the spring water with acupuncture to control their illness and let them live a few more years. Thinking of this, I couldn't help sighing. With greater power comes greater responsibility. Since heaven had let me be reborn, there must be meaning in it. I wanted to do something for grandfather and for people like him. When the time was up, I began removing the needles, drawing them out slowly against the direction they had gone in. Old Wang slowly opened his eyes and let out a long breath. I handed him a cup of water and said softly, "Uncle Wang, have some water." He leaned against the head of the bed and took a sip. His eyes shrank. The water gave off a clear fragrance and didn't seem like plain water. With one sip, a warm strength surged through his body. He drank it all in one go, instantly feeling that warm strength inside, a little energy in his body, and he propped himself up to sit. Outside, his son and daughter-in-law heard the sound and came right in. Seeing his father sitting up full spirit, the son rushed to the bedside and choked out, "Dad, how do you feel?" Old Wang laughed. "Son, I feel strength all through my body, and I have an appetite. I want to eat." His son's nose stung, and tears fell. "All right, I'll take you home and brew you some porridge." He stood and turned to me, saying awkwardly, "Dr. Su, thank you so much." I nodded and instructed gravely, "For now it's only temporarily suppressed. He'll need continued treatment later, with herbs, to slowly regulate his condition. I can't promise a cure, but it can reduce the cancer cells in his body and let the patient live longer." I added, a little shyly, "Everyone's constitution is different, so I can't say how much longer. Maybe a year or two, maybe 3 to 5. But I can promise the patient will live with dignity." Everyone in the room drew a sharp breath. Even Chen Chongqing at the door was shocked and quickly said, "My apprentice is boasting a little. The child doesn't know her limits." I grinned and said nothing more. My master's words were kindly meant. Those who believed in me, I would give pleasant surprises. Those who didn't, I had no need to explain. Old Wang said gravely from the bed, "I believe Dr. Su. She treated me just once, and now not only is the pain gone, my whole body is full of strength." With that, he stood up from the bed onto the floor, walked back and forth a few steps, and said firmly, "This Su girl is a miracle doctor. I believe her words. I feel she's holding something back. Maybe she can even fully cure me." Everyone was even more shocked. The son's eyes went wide, and he couldn't speak. A storm raged in Shen Chongqing's heart. What kind of apprentice had he taken on? She believed the girl wouldn't lie. Could she really control cancer and extend patients' lives? Wasn't that too miraculous? Now he felt embarrassed. He didn't know what terrifying level the girl's medical skill had reached. Taking her as an apprentice had been reckless of him. My face flushed red, and I scratched my head awkwardly, hurrying to change the subject. I turned to him. "Master, take Uncle Wang's pulse and prescribe a few doses of herbs." He nodded and smiled. "All right, come with me." After everyone left the room, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. I checked the time, about time to remove old Lee's needles. I worked methodically, and afterward handed him a cup of water too. Having drunk it yesterday, old Lee knew it was something good and drank it all in one go, instantly feeling full of strength. Smacking his lips, he asked curiously, "Girl, is there something in this water?" I paused, my mind racing. I coughed and smiled. "Yes, it's a specially made medicine. With acupuncture, it has an anti-cancer effect." His eyes shrank. No wonder. He had been puzzled how, in just one day, his spirits had improved so much. From now on he'd come every day, and perhaps before long there'd be a pleasant surprise. Old Lee and I went together to the front of the shop. He paid the acupuncture fee and left. Chen Chongqing took out 600 yuan and handed it to me. The corner of my mouth lifted, and I took it directly. We had already agreed yesterday, a win-win partnership, nothing to be shy about. He looked at me. "Nian Nian, watch the shop. I'll go next door to buy some food." I touched my stomach. I really was a little hungry. I nodded and smiled. "All right." I put a cup of spirit spring water into a disposable cup and drank it all in one go, feeling full of strength. I had just set down the cup when the door curtain was lifted and 2 people walked in. I looked up at a woman in her 40s, her face sallow, clutching her stomach, her eyes full of pain. Beside her stood a man of about 40, frowning, his face full of worry. "Is Dr. Chin here?" the woman asked weakly, her eyes falling on me. Just as I was about to speak, 2 more people came in, an elderly couple. The old man was supported by the old woman, his body hunched, his face pained. She glanced around nervously and asked in a low voice, "Is this the place?" Is this where Masterly said? I looked around and said softly, Are you looking for Dr. Chen? He's my master. He went out to buy food and will be back soon. Her eyes lit up. Little girl, Masterly referred us. He said Huichun Hall has a young doctor whose needles are amazing. One needle and the pain is gone. I scratched my head shyly. Uncle Lee is exaggerating. It's not that amazing. She was a little displeased. They had come for the miracle doctor, and my words spoiled the mood. Little girl, do you even know acupuncture? Don't talk nonsense if you don't understand. I was choked by her words and opened my mouth to reply when Chin Chongqing lifted the curtain, food in hand, and came in. Seeing the shop full of people, he asked curiously, Nian Nian, who are these people? Everyone turned to look at him. The woman in her 40s asked softly, Are you Dr. Chen? He nodded. Yes, I'm Dr. Chen. The old woman crowded over too. He quickly said, Don't worry, take your time. What illness do you have? The young woman's nose stung and she choked out, I have late-stage pancreatic cancer. The pain is unbearable. My back hurts like knives. As she spoke, her body hunched involuntarily, her face twisting. He looked at me. This is my apprentice, Su Nian. She's skilled at acupuncture and can relieve pain with needles. Go with her to the back first, and after the needling, I'll prescribe herbs. The woman's eyes lit up. She nodded, and her husband supported her as they followed me to the back. The old woman paused, then realized and said in shock, Dr. Chen, that girl is the young doctor who does acupuncture in your shop. He nodded. Oh, she cried, look at my mouth. I was just disrespectful to the young doctor. My husband has liver cancer, can't sleep from the pain, has seen many doctors who all say there's nothing to be done. The young doctor won't be angry, will she? He laughed lightly. It's fine. A healer has a parent's heart. My apprentice won't hold such a small thing against you. Let me take you to the back courtyard and have her give the old man a few needles. Full of gratitude, she said, Thank you. He led the elderly couple to the back. Knowing I was needling a patient and that it wasn't right to go in then, he took them to the room next door, where they carefully helped the old man onto the bed. Standing outside, he called loudly, Nian Nian, I've put another patient in the next room. I'm going to the front to see patients now. I responded at once. I understand, master. He went to the front hall, full of feeling. Ever since I came, the shop's business had grown better and better. Now they were so busy they couldn't even eat. He decided to talk to his wife when he got home and have her come help at the shop. In the back courtyard, after I needled the middle-aged woman, she felt much better at once. She and her husband were amazed and thanked me without stopping. I then went to the next room. Seeing me come in, the old woman kept apologizing. My face calm, I soothed her instead. It was just a few words, and I had already forgotten them. This made her even more ashamed. I took the needles soaked in spring water and began on the old man. With the first needle, he immediately felt a warm strength enter his body, and the pain eased at once. I inserted the second and third needles, and he gradually relaxed, feeling light all over, a warm strength nourishing his limbs. Beside him, the old woman, seeing him stop moaning and his brows smooth out, was even more astonished. I poured 2 cups of warm water, secretly adding some spring water. After the patients drank it, they were full of energy, instantly revived. I worked all the way until noon before seeing off the 2 couples, then collapsed into a chair, exhausted. Looking at the breakfast my master had bought me, the porridge had gone cold, and I lost my appetite. Chen Chongqing took out another 600 yuan and handed it to me with a light smile. Nian Nian, let's lock up the shop for a bit. Come home and eat with me? I waved my hand. No, Grandpa is at home. I'm worried about him. He nodded. We walked out, locked the door, hung up the sign, and he pushed his bicycle and said goodbye. I went to the intersection and waved down a taxi. Leaning against the window, I gazed outside. So much had happened since my rebirth. This life really was different from the last. This life, I could use my medical skill and the spirit spring in my space to save many lives. The days were busy, and life had become interesting. In my past life, I had been confined to family, longing for that empty, distant family affection. This life, after opening my horizons, I found that life held not only family but many meaningful things worth doing. Gazing out the window, my thoughts surged. The taxi reached a crossroads when the driver suddenly braked. From the momentum, my body lurched forward and thudded against the seat in front. Startled, I came back to myself. I frowned, not yet able to ask the driver why he had braked so suddenly. Then my eyes shrank in horror at the terrifying sight. An out-of-control truck, like a maddened beast, was speeding shockingly fast toward a black luxury car in the left lane that was about to turn left.
With a
tremendous crash, the black car was pushed by the truck and slammed hard into the roadside barrier, then bounced back, severely deformed, its windows shattered, glass shards flying everywhere. The driver and I were both terrified, neither of us speaking. My face went pale, and I clutched my chest, my heart pounding wildly. Luckily, the taxi driver was experienced and had spotted the truck early, or we might have been caught in it too. Coming back to myself, I stared wide-eyed at the horrific accident scene. The black car's front spewed white smoke, its body badly deformed, liquid quickly seeping out from underneath. I rolled down the window and smelled a strong odor of gasoline. People around began screaming. "It's leaking fuel. The car's going to explode. Run far away. Don't go near it." Cries rose one after another. Everyone instinctively backed away. Some took out phones to call, some frantically took photos, but no one dared go forward. My heart tightened. I smelled the scent of death. The taxi driver, pale with fright, stammered, "Little girl, that car's about to explode. Let's take a detour. It's too dangerous here." My heart pounded wildly. I wanted to agree, but I glanced over. Those were human lives. I took out 20 yuan and handed it to him. "Driver, you go ahead. I want to go take a look." He tried to stop me, but I had already opened the door and stepped out.